Welcome to the first episode of the Life Lid podcast. I'm joined today by a good friend of mine I've known for many years. He's an Australian Army veteran, a veteran of Afghanistan, a current serving police officer with the Queensland Police. He's an actor, he's a martial artist, he's a father. You might know him as the biracial angel or the Asian Tom Cruise. He's also a karaoke superstar. Welcome, my friend, Tommy Archer.
Mate, you did not disappoint on the intro. There was a lot of pressure on you just then.
It's the third take of that, just so everyone knows.
I had a feeling Asian Tom Cruise is going to come out.
Cheers, mate. This is the first episode.
It is. Thank
Cheers.
you. Thanks, man.
That.
Thanks for having me.
What are we drinking here? What is this?
This is Heaps Normal. So it's a near beer, no alcohol. I appreciate you getting them for me because I'm not drinking as much these days.
Yeah, what's the go? What's the choice to? Are you completely sober?
No, I'm not completely sober.
Yeah.
It's just I've found, and this could just be me, but as I'm getting older, alcohol is just not agreeing with me as much as it used to when I was in my 20s. I'm 35 now, turning 36 later this year, but I can't do the the old AJ days of going out Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday night. I can barely have like 3 drinks on a Friday, and I'll still take me 3-4 days to recover. So
that's rough.
Yeah, especially when you're parenting as well.
Yeah, that's a whole different.
Yeah,
I just have to look after myself when I'm hungover, and that's hard enough.
Although my boy, he's 7 now, so he can kind of look after me now. But yeah, it was more a health choice that I just find that not that I drank heaps, but after a couple of beers, it just sits with me for like 24 hours of just feeling seedy and have no energy the next day, and I just don't want to waste a weekend anymore.
That's fair.
Yeah. So now I can go out with people to the pub, have a couple of 0 beers, feel like I'm joining in, and then drive home.
Do you let everyone know? Are you like
Well, that's a fun game I like to do. Is go to the bar, order the 0 beers in a schooner glass, have about 6 or 7 of them, and then grab my keys in front of everyone. Go righto, I'm off. I'll see you later. And not tell anyone I was on 0 beers. I still enjoy that.
That'd be good. People who get do they get weird about it?
Yeah, they do. It is weird because
and
it happened to me at like the work Christmas party end of last year when no one knew I was on 0 beers, and then someone saw me order one.
Yeah,
and then when I came back to the table, it was like, "Whoa, why aren't you drinking, mate?" And then it felt like I had to explain myself. And then when I said, "I'm not ruining your night. It's all good." Like everything was fine until you saw what I was drinking. The drink changes nothing.
Yeah.
So and then everyone kind of went, "Oh yeah, he's right."
People get strange.
Yeah,
they're really weird about it. It's like they feel like you're not on the same level.
I think that's what it is. I think when you're in your 20s, I can understand when blokes have that mentality.
Yeah,
but as we get older, like no one really cares.
Yeah. So does that mean are you completely no alcohol now, or do you have the occasional drink?
No, I
still have stick to them for the most.
I have the occasional drink.
Yeah.
But yeah, like the 0 beers these days, depending on the brand, they just taste the same, in my opinion.
Yeah, they're not bad. Like that's not bad at all.
Yeah, and this is a hazy.
Yeah.
So much like, honestly, I don't think many people could tell the difference. Tastes good, and you can drive home.
Yeah, it's got a good sort of. It's almost like fruity. It's kind of like a stone of wood.
Yeah, exactly.
That's quite
right.
nice.
Yeah. So there's a lot of craft beer type.
Yeah.
Near beers now. So I highly recommend.
Interesting.
So Heaps Normal. Keep doing what you're doing.
Heap Normal.
Big fan.
Yeah, dude,
big fan.
Killing it. Thanks for sponsoring the podcast. What it must be like to have people sponsor you.
Hey, it's the first one. It probably will be Heaps Normal after this.
I mean, it might be. Who knows?
You never know.
If you're watching Heaps Normal, you guys tune in. We are drinking your beers, so we'll see. Oh, mate. So thanks for coming on, mate.
No, man.
Honestly,
thanks for took us a while to get it going. With dates and everything, but we're finally here, and it's awesome. I love the studio, man. Like, I blew my mind when I walked in.
I put a lot of effort into this, to be honest.
I can tell
more than most would see that I've put a lot of effort into other things in my life. I've put more into this, which is good. So what's it?
Why don't you go into our history, how we know each other?
That is a good point. So we have known each other for quite a while.
We have 2009.
2009, yeah, maybe even no, it would have been 2009. Yeah, because I don't think I actually put the app in at all until 2009.
Yeah.
So 15 years this year.
Holy shit!
It's been 15 years.
Wow.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah. So we obviously Jake and I met at basic training.
No, we met at recruiting first.
Oh,
you and I,
that's right.
I lined almost all of our like U sessions. I don't think we did we might have done the physical together. I can't remember. I just remember seeing you multiple times.
That's right.
It became a little in joke, like, you're back. You made it to the next stage.
You're still here. You're surprised me, mate.
Yeah.
Didn't think you were going to get through the last stage, to be honest, but here we are.
The psych interview was rough. Yeah, so we've actually known each other quite a while now, 15 years.
Yep.
How has it been for you? What was it like for you when you got, because obviously we went to Kapuka. What was your sort of ride up to Kapuka like?
It's a good question. Like the way I joined the military is like, there were 3 things I wanted to do when I was a kid. Right? Yeah. And I think like every boy growing up in the 90s comes up with these. It's be a police officer, be a soldier, and then the third one, obviously, be an actor.
Yes.
And originally when I left school, I wanted to get in the film industry, but I didn't want to go to uni.
Yeah,
so
I was the same.
Yeah, you exact same?
Yeah, very similar.
And then I thought I was going to be a red hot rugby player and play for the Reds.
I didn't know you played rugby.
Yeah, but I was like hard out in high school. And then I realised, you got to be good to do that. So that didn't really pan out because after I left high school, I was just doing casual jobs like retail jobs and then playing football on the weekends.
Yeah.
But then once I turned 18 and started going out, discovering alcohol and clubbing, then the football kind of died off. Yeah. So I was doing really nothing for a few years, just working retail jobs. And me and my best mate, Nato, we went to high school together. We had like this, we were both working retail. Yeah. We were going to the gym every day. And then one day we were sitting in the pool at the gym and we were complaining about our life, about what we were going to do. And I said to Nato, dude, why don't we just join the Army Reserve? Yeah. And there was like a moment of silence. He went, fuck it, why don't we just go full time? Yeah. So we got in the car, we went to his house, we both signed up. And then you would have seen him as well at all our sessions because me and him went to the same sessions.
I'd have to.
You wouldn't remember him.
I wouldn't remember him, no.
And that's how it kind of came about joining the Army. So leading up to that, I really didn't have any direction in my life. And that's kind of once you join, it gives you much purpose, a whole bunch of direction. Yeah. And there's only one thing I wanted to do in the military, which was join the infantry. Yeah,
I couldn't really see a point doing anything else. Like, I'm not throwing shade or, at shit at anyone else who does other jobs. But for me personally, I was like, if I wanted to be a plumber, I could go and get an apprenticeship, probably get paid more, probably get looked after better. Like, why would I? If I'm going to join the Army, it'd be to fight. That's the only reason I would do it.
Yeah. Although in hindsight, when I got out and I saw guys who came out with a lot more money and more qualifications, I went, oh, maybe I shouldn't have just done infantry.
I fucked up. Yeah,
and that's funny. Like when me and NATO joined up, we both said we were going to do the same job. And it was, let's both join the infantry. So remember how you put the 3 jobs down that you wanted to do?
Yeah.
I just put 1 down. Yeah. And the guy in the interview was like, you still got 2 more spots. And I was like, nah, it's infantry or nothing. I was like, all right, but just put 2 more. I was like, nah, just the 1. He's like, okay. So I came out of my interview, NATO came out of his, and I was like, infantry, mate. I only put 1. What did you put down? He's like, oh, nah, I changed my mind in there. He's like, I'm going to go to Canberra, become an officer. I was like, well, what happened to the plan? I know, because we said, we're going to go do our training together. We're going to go overseas together. And he's like, no, that actually sounds like a horrible job. I changed my mind.
Oh, dude.
So, he's still in. He's a major now.
Wow.
Yeah. So, he's been
What did he end up doing? Like, he went officer, but what did he...
Ramey.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. He doesn't really have any desire to go overseas or anything, but like, we talk about qualifications and stuff like that, what he's going to walk... out of the military with if he decides to leave, which I think he might, he'll be very, very much suited to the private sector.
Yeah. Well, he's got a qualification that's worth something.
Yep.
I think I got like a cert
HR and everything. Is that what we got?
I got, cert 2 and 3 in security. It was pointless. I was it's not worth, the ink is worth more than you wrote it with. Like,
yeah.
No one cares about that.
Yeah.
Interesting. So, because I remember we got to Kapuka in the same platoon, but you were one section, I would assume, being Archer.
Yes. Yeah. It was 1 section.
But Singo, we got split.
Yeah, that's right. We were in different platoons, and I think I only saw you a handful of times.
Yeah. Came around for a movie night every now and then. Watched a bit of Top Gun. That was about it.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yep, that's all I remember from Singo. Yeah. Just people come over to my room to watch movies.
Yeah. But you ended up going to Brizzy.
Yeah, I went to 6RR and went to Brizzy and worked well for me because I'm from Brisbane.
Yeah.
As you're from Brizzy as well, hey? Yeah. So it worked out well. 2012, did my deployment to Afghanistan on MTF 5. Did the 6 months there, came back. Then once I realised that was kind of it for, at the time they were saying that's the last kind of combat deployment for infantry and everything, I thought, okay, well, I don't really want to sit around here just training. Yeah. So immediately applied for the police. Yeah. And then didn't really take less than 12 months. I was already at the academy after coming back from Afghanistan, I'm pretty sure.
How did you? So were you out when you actually got in, or were you doing the whole recruitment process while you were still in?
I think by the time I started the academy, I was out, but I took like all my leave.
Yeah.
So there was a big period of time when I was doing nothing.
Yeah.
But just took my leave. Then my leave ended. I think it may have been a month or two where I was like unemployed before I started at the police academy in 2013.
Yeah, right.
So 10, 11 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So rewind a little bit. When you first got into 6, what was that like getting into 6? Like I've only had experience obviously with 5.
Yeah.
What's it like rocking up to 6 in Brizzy? Like what a location to have.
Yeah, it was weird because before joining the military, I didn't even know where the Enoggera barracks was.
I had no idea.
And then I remember, when we were getting the bus in, because we had to, after we left Singo, a whole bunch of us had to go to Tin Can Bay immediately to the enemy party for like a month. So we drove from Tin Can Bay back to Enoggera when that wrapped up. And I remember as we were I'm driving through the city and everything, like seeing all the hallmarks of Brizzy, I go, where the fuck are we going?
Yeah.
How is there a military base around here?
Yeah.
And then you drive down it feels like a suburban street. And I'm like, surely not. And then there's the front gate.
There's Enoggera.
So it was pretty cool. And I think everyone, no matter where you get, what battalion you go to, everyone probably has a similar experience on their first day.
Yeah.
I remember it was, I think about 4 or 5 of us rocking up. Curto was one of them.
Yeah.
One of our best mates. And we just kind of got off the bus. They just stopped the bus and said, yep, there you go. And then we grabbed our bags and the bus drove off. And then we're just standing in this military base going, I'm assuming that's where we go over there. And I just remember walking down, like we're in our polys and everything, carrying all our bags. So everyone knows where the lids, where the new guys. And guys just like, it reminded me of like prison. Guys just yelling threats out from the company windows as we were walking past. And I'm like, oh, dear God, what have I done?
Yeah.
Because, it's like you get to basic training and you have that moment, like your first or second night going, is this really for me? And then you get used to the lifestyle and you get through basic and then you start again at the bottom of the ladder going to Singo School of Infantry. Same sort of thing. Fuck, should I really be doing this?
Yeah.
And then you kind of get to the end of that and then you get to your battalion and you're right at the bottom again.
Yeah.
And that's what it's like trying to earn your place. When me and the boys got to 6, I think a few weeks prior, not that long, maybe even a week prior, the guys on MTF 1 had just gone over to Afghanistan.
Yeah. So I was going to say you would have rocked up right at that.
Yeah, it's
that
like
point.
skeleton platoon.
So was it
Left at Enoggera.
March. It would have been March 2010.
Man, you got a good memory.
Yeah. I remember a couple of key dates of things, and that's about it. The rest of my memory's shot.
Yeah.
But I think it was like the 21st of March 2010, I think was when I marched into 5, so it would have been roughly the same for you, I'd assume.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So it was weird. Like I said, I think everyone has that daunting first experience when you get to the unit because you're the new guys.
Yeah.
And back then, I'm sure it's probably the same. The kind of culture walking into an infantry unit, like I said, felt like I was walking through like the prison lines of guys just yelling threats at you for random reasons.
Yeah.
And then, you start to meet the guys and integrate into the teams and, and then you start doing it to the new guys.
Yeah.
Months down the track when they're like, I get it. I get why we do this.
Yeah.
But then, months later, once we're all settled there, then the guys from MTF 1 come back and
what's that like?
That was tough because we got really comfortable, but you feel like you're warming someone's seat. And, for those listening who are well aware how MTF 1 went, there was a few guys who didn't make it home. So there's a lot of trauma amongst the guys that were over there when they came back. There was, and not from everyone, but there was hostility from some people towards us because it's like coming home and they're like, who the fuck are you guys? And, there's probably an element of us that were acting like we own the place because there was no one else there.
Yeah, you had for that.
Yeah, exactly right.
Yeah.
So it was hard starting again when it felt like you were at home, but then the guys come back. It's like dad's come home and it kind of rattled the cage again. We all got separated into new sections. And I remember probably the best thing that happened to me was I got to work with Dan Kieran.
Yeah, right.
I got put in
Okay.
the Dan section, and I remember the first day we kind of went off as a section to start repping some drills out. He said to me and one of the other guys that marched in with me, it was me and Steely. He said, "Hey, like I know there's a lot of hostility. I don't want you guys to worry about that. Our job is to get you guys ready for your deployment, essentially." So he kind of took us under his wing rather than talk down to us. Which anyone who knows Dan Kieran speaks lengths to the character of the guy, which is why he's a VC recipient.
Yeah, well, especially even before he'd won that, that's a big thing coming from a senior dig.
Oh, absolutely.
And a corporal to come in because when you get in, they're the fucking gods.
That's right.
And they're scary as fuck.
Dan hadn't received his VC at the time. When he did, I remember I was in Afghanistan at the time.
Yeah.
And we woke up and everyone from 6 that was on the deployment, because we went over with 3RAR, guys
Unlucky.
were... Yeah, I know. Sorry to any 3RAR brethren. I love yous. It was almost like waking up and someone had won the grand final. Guys were running around with their laptops with 9 News up going, oh, look, Dan's got the VC. And, didn't even know what was happening. Yeah. So that was a pretty cool moment. And I remember reflecting on me getting to meet him for the first time and working with him. It was only for a small period of time, but getting to work under him and learn from him immediately after coming back from overseas. So that was pretty cool.
It's weird when you get to look back on those sort of moments. I remember before we deployed, when still in 2010 we got to 5, they came around and did the SF brief, and 2 commando got up, they gave their spiel, and the dude at the front, terrible public speaker. It was horrendous, and we're kind of whoa, maybe these guys aren't the best group to go with. They don't seem real bright. And then they say, so our guys did theirs, which is cool, whatever. Fast forward, however many years it was, and Cameron Baird got his VC, or he'd got his VC, because he was posthumously awarded. Yep. So he'd passed away, and my mate gave me a buzz, and he's like, oi, do you know who that is? And I was like, well, yeah, one of the 2 commando guys. He's like, no, that's the dude. That's the dude that was the terrible public speaker that we were we sat there in the same room with that absolute weapon and just had no idea.
Yeah. Well, like you said before, you look up to them like gods. I remember seeing Ben Robert-Smith on my trip overseas numerous times, and one moment where we had to, not that they needed, it was really weird that they we had to go provide security at the airfield for them so they could load up and fly off, and I'm like, these guys don't need us. Come on. Really? You want me to provide security for Ben Robert-Smith? Yeah. But I was standing now the cupola of the Bushy, and RS had his section not that far from my vehicle, and I was like a kid looking at a rock star. I remember just watching him just to see what he did, and him checking on all his team, and he's constantly checking his map, looking at his GPS. I don't know how long I was staring at him for, but I just wanted to watch what he did. I'm like, that's a professional soldier. I want to see how he does business. But I did feel like an idiot standing there going, oh, I got this, boys, don't worry. Anything kicks off, oh, mate, we got you.
Yeah, I think it's quite funny, the difference from our side of the fence to that side of the fence, and how things work and how they get treated and whatnot. I remember being when on our deployment, they'd give us we were all desert cams, and they're like, why are we wearing desert cams? We got to go in the green. But so then we're wearing greens, but with Desert Cam McBass, and they're making us wear the Desert Cam helmet covers. You've got to have a helmet cover on you, but you just you're creating a target for yourself. It's ridiculous. But we're at the engineer's gate on the way out of TK, sitting there waiting, and I don't know if it was 2 Commando or SSR, whoever it was, SOTG comes rolling by and pulls up next to us, and I'm sitting there getting yelled at for not having a fucking ill-fitted Desert Cam helmet cover on. I look across at this SOTG bloke sitting on top of the Bushmaster with a 50 cal tripod welded onto the top because they hadn't got the mounts yet with the 50 cal, but then he's welded a deck chair, like a beach chair to the back, and has a ratchet strap across for a seatbelt.
Mate, you should have had a word to him about safety.
Yeah, oh mate, and I'm just sitting there how are we in the same organisation?
It's
nuts. It's laughable, but it's just. It's such a different world over there.
Yeah.
Oh, unreal. So then, fast forwarding a little bit to 2012, you deploy. What's that like for you guys?
God, it was, it's what, and I'm sure every soldier agrees, until you get a deployment, you just feel like you're training for the game. And back then, everyone was stabbing each other in the back just to get a trip. And
a lot of healed by Jesus coming out.
A lot of guys who weren't able to train because of injuries, all of a sudden were miraculously healed, as you said. But the good thing about 6RAR, because we were motorized, we had majority of us, we were always doing crew commanders or drivers courses to be qualified in Bushmasters, which was a main element of movement over in Afghanistan for us then. So when 3RAR needed crewies and drivers, a whole bunch of us got to go over, attached with them. It was an experience. what is it? How many years ago is it now? God, it's a while.
2012.
12 years.
12 years?
Yeah. Like when I look back at that, I remember main memory is all the pre-deployment stuff because we did our pre-deployment in Townsville. 3RA just moved to Townsville. So
that's
they were
where
still...
we did ours too.
Oh, was it? Yeah.
Yeah.
They were just finding their feet from the move from Sydney up to Townsville. So you had, 3 infantry units all up, posted up there. And then 6RAR comes up and, 214 come up and everything like that. And the engineers. So there's a lot of guys doing their pre-deployment in Townsville. And just remembering, like, the accommodation we had was awful. Like, I think many of us got sick just from the accommodation.
Yeah.
But okay, I was like early 20s, 22 maybe, 23. Yeah. Just the bond you had with your mates. Like, you didn't care about the conditions back then. You'd train hard all week up at, high range?
Yep.
And then weekends, we were going out. Mad Cow. Shout out the Mad Cow. And just partying and living like you should when you're in your early 20s because you didn't have a care in the world.
Yeah, disposable income.
Yeah, disposable income. And then it was tough because I got to train with a lot of my mates from Brisbane in Townsville. And then just as we started wrapping up the training, all of a sudden there was another section who lost a few guys. I got taken from my group and put in with a whole bunch of strangers who I did not know. And I didn't like that feeling at all because training had pretty much finished at this point.
Yeah.
Now I'm being told, you're now working with these guys. Oh, and by the way, you don't leave in, I can't really remember, my memory's sketchy now, but originally I had a whole bunch, like 3-4 weeks, maybe a bit longer before I went and deployed. Now it was like, you've got a week or two.
Yeah.
And that rattled me because I was like, hang on, I had plans with my missus, we were going to go away and everything like that. So now I had to tell her, hey, it ain't happening because I'm leaving like next week.
Yeah.
And finding my feet with a new group, basically changing my role at the time and seeing how I fit in, that was hard. So then, fast forward, get to go overseas and it's an experience because you train it, you picture what it's going to be like and you're just used to the Australian terrain. And I remember the first time when we finally got over there and I went on my first nursery patrol, trying to figure out how to actually navigate. And I fucked it up so bad. Yeah. I remember because I think they had me as a lead vehicle, which I hadn't trained to do, and all the nav was on me. And the guy who was doing the handover with me, nice bloke, but he was just thinking about going home. Yeah, so it was all on me. Yeah. And I fucked a few things up. And I remember one of the lieutenants, I said the wrong thing on the radio, and then he come into my vehicle and ripped me apart. And then when we finally got back to base, I remember having that moment of, man, I don't know if I should be doing this, purely because I didn't want to get anyone hurt. Yeah, that's the feeling. I'm like, here is not the place to make mistakes. Now that we've gone live, and I remember going to my boss saying, and I didn't really know him very well, and he seemed like an old school stern dude, and I pulled him aside, and said, man, I don't know if I'm cut out for this. And he's like, no, like you'll be fine. Like just I trust you, trust the process. We had a good conversation about that, and he was right. Like after maybe 1 or 2 more jobs, like I just started taking it like a duck to water. Yeah. Found my feet, which I think everyone goes through that, right? Even you go for your first patrols, and you start sketching out a little bit because you have no idea. Like again, you're so used to training in Australia and how our training's conducted. You can kind of get used to and predict what's going to happen. Over there, you're like, I have no idea what's going on. Yeah. Now that when I'm driving through a village, like I know they're not role players. Like anything can happen. Yeah. So yeah, just stressing about that. But I loved my time over there. That's something I miss to this day is when you're overseas, you don't have anything to worry about but you and your mates. Yeah. There's no bills or anything like that. There's no stresses of life, particularly when you're in your early 20s. You literally go out and you're with your mates, you keep each other safe and you do the job. You know what the job is every single day. You come back and you're just bonding.
Yeah, and life is so much simpler.
Life is so much simpler, which is why, when you come back home, you do have issues. But I remember loving the trip up until a certain point when, there's an incident that happened when lost a few guys one night. One of them was one of my best mates, Robbie Pote. And that was the group who I had trained with originally to go over with that I got taken out of. And once that happened, that definitely changed the vibe of the trip. Not just for me, for everyone. You could feel, especially when you're losing mates in 3 in one night,
Yeah.
I think it was actually ended up being 5 because SF lost a couple of guys a couple of hours later. It changed everything. Like the perspective, like you grow up quick because, again, I keep saying it, early 20s, you live life a certain way and you haven't really...
You're bulletproof.
You're bulletproof, exactly right. And the way that you train as a soldier, you're being told you're bulletproof and that you can walk through anything.
Yeah.
And then guys start to drop off and the reality starts to sink in, and then you feel, not that, it's probably only as I got older and started to look back that started feeling more emotion from it. But you do start to feel emotions you've probably never felt before. Like I'd never known anyone that had died, especially a friend at that age, let alone to an enemy.
Yeah.
So that changes things.
Yeah.
And it did change the rest of the vibe for the rest of the trip.
Yeah. Do you want to go into that at all? What the what the incident was?
Yeah,
like I'm not privy to what it was.
Yeah, it was like our guys, again, forgive me for my memory. It's a bit hazy on it now, but middle of the night, because we were at that time in the war, a lot of Australian elements, we were going over to help rebuild infrastructure and to train the local forces, and that's what our guys were doing over there. And they were training the local soldiers, so they were staying on the same base. And then one night, basically when everyone's got downtime, boys were playing cards and everything like that, just chilling out. Enemy soldier who was meant to be friend came in and just started firing shots. Okay, and I think at the time the guys were playing cards, playing some games, and then unfortunately, were taken by the enemy soldier. And I still remember. I remember when the news came through because I was at TK, and I was just getting ready to. It took me for like weeks. I was trying to watch this episode of Spartacus, the show Spartacus, and
all were.
Everyone was.
So good.
And every time I went to watch it, something would happen. And I remember this night finally going, "Yep, good." I remember set myself in the bunk, had a little curtain on my bunk, as we all did.
The wank booth.
The wank booth.
The bat cave.
And I started watching it, and then the lights in the room flicked on, and I opened the curtain, and someone said, "Yep, you've got to go in the hallway next door. There's been an incident. Boss wants to brief everyone." We sat there for ages and ages, no one knowing what was going on. And the boss finally said, "There's been agreed on blue. Very limited details at this time. Just stand by." So we were waiting, and one of our medics went down to the medical facility because the injured guys had been flown in to TK.
Yeah, to the Roll 2 there.
Yeah, the Roll 2. And I remember, I think his name was Guards. Guards went out. I can't remember how long he was gone, but we were like, we're still just, because we didn't know, we were still just kind of jovial, talking shit. And then I remember seeing Guards come in at the end of the hallway, and just from the look on his face, I was like, this doesn't look good. And he immediately went into his room because he was sharing a room with the boss, and they were in there for a bit. And the boss came out and briefed us, and I don't remember much of what he said, but I just remember him naming the guys that didn't make it. And when he named the 3 guys, I didn't want to believe it, particularly Robbie, because he's one of my mates from 6. I knew the other guys not as well, but Robbie was a good friend of mine. And then I just remember, not believing it, and then asking him to confirm that the names, and he read them out again. And I think I just went numb again. Like I'd never experienced anything like that, and like I was so confused. And then there was just, I really can't remember. I just remember there was just guys talking over each other, and the boss just said, "Look, stand by. We don't know what we're going to do yet, but we may need to go out there." And then I remember walking out outside, and I was just standing there for a bit. And I think I was by myself, and I remember Bushmaster pulled up. It was a mate from another unit who just jumped. Like I was staring at him. He jumped off the top of the bushy. And he was really good mates with Robbie, and he was like bawling his eyes out. And he's like, "Did you hear about Robbie?" And I don't even remember what I said. I just was so confused. I remember we hugged, and then he left, and then one of my sergeants came over, and it's like what you see in the movies. Like he was talking, but I wasn't hearing anything. And I remember saying, "Sorry, Sarge, what did you say?" And he goes, "Mate, can I make you a tea?" And I was like, "Yeah, that'd be great." And then my memory after that is I went back to my bunk, and I just sat there, and I didn't know what to do. And then we got briefed that they were putting together a mission to go out to where the boys were and bring everyone home and to get some rest, essentially.
Yeah.
Which was very hard to do. I remember that it was, I think I kind of slept, but, like weird dreams and everything. You're not sure if you're awake or asleep. Before I know it, we'll kitten up and then going back out there. I remember, we had a big force element going out there because I was the lead vehicle, and I can't even remember how many vehicles and all the crewies went for a briefing. One of the majors, I think he was from 214, he was briefing us on the route we were going to take. And I remember he said, who's the lead crewie? I put my hand up. And he said, okay, mate, just so you're aware, I think he said that Scan Eagle in the last few hours had picked up like possible enemy activity along the route, and that I need to be aware of IEDs potentially at like crew commander height. I remember something to do with that.
Yeah, right.
And I was like, okay.
We're directional charges, maybe?
Yeah, directional charges. Yeah. And I can't, again, my memory's hazy, but I just remember taking that on board and going, holy shit, this is, I don't know if I'm in the headspace for this right now. There's a lot on me right now. And I went back to my car and I had a brick of engineers. Still, like, will always be mates with them. I haven't spoken to them in years, but like, I just remember trying to explain to them what we're going to do in the route, and I couldn't really get through it as I was holding my map. And I remember they all gave me a hug, like, we're going to get through it together, mate. And then off we went. And then the next few hours just were a blur. Actually, the next few days were a blur because we went out, brought everyone back, and then we kitted back out and went and stayed in the dash for a couple of days.
Yeah.
But it was just a blur, man, because you don't sleep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dude, that's heavy.
Yeah, it was it was heavy, and I think like my one memory of that week, and I think I've talked about it on our podcast before. As a young man, you don't know how to process information and loss. And I remember one night when we were sleeping out in the dash, I just couldn't sleep at all, and I was like, something's wrong. What is wrong with me? And then I think it was my turn for picket, and man in the gun on the bushy. And something just didn't feel right. I remember closing the hatches, and I locked the door, and it was like for 60 seconds, I bawled my eyes out. But it was like as soon as 60 seconds were up, everything just stopped.
Yep.
And nothing else came out. And I went, that was weird. Opened the hatches, stood back up the top again. Like, it was the weirdest thing.
Yeah. So it's kind of that compartmentalization.
Yeah, and obviously as I've gotten older now, and I speak to a psychologist about not just the military stuff, but like other stuff through policing and things like that. Like, I look back and it all makes sense now.
Yeah,
and I understand what was happening, but at the time, like, what a week that was. Like, for everyone involved, I can only imagine like what many other mates went through that were there that night and possibly still going through at the moment. It's heavy for young men to go through stuff like that.
Yes, absolutely. And then have to, immediately, so you have to compartmentalize in it, because this isn't the last day of the trip.
No.
This is, halfway through, 3/4 or something.
Yeah, I think it was about halfway.
Yeah, you've still got potentially another 4.5, 5 months. It might be the rest of your 6-month deployment, 8-month deployment.
Yeah.
You have to continue doing your job. Like, it really sucks they're gone, but if you don't, and you are potentially as well, or someone else. So
and that's obviously like the mentality you have, and that is drummed into you. That it sucks. I still remember we were out in the dash seeing the planes take the bodies back home, and seeing it from a distance one morning. And like,
you guys weren't there for the ramp ceremony?
No, we weren't. Because we had to go out because we they wanted to find who done it. Yeah, and I felt like a heavy heart just seeing the plane tip to the side as they come back and pass, but seeing that in a distance. And then when we came back, like, the back end of the trip really is a blur, but I do remember it changed everything, and some for the good, because I feel silly saying that, because it did bring everyone together. And it was like a reminder that, hey, like, shit can go real bad here. Like, as you know, like, modern warfare these days, I think one thing we always struggle with being modern diggers, even though we've been out for a while, our generation is still modern diggers, is we compare ourselves to the Anzacs, right? And if you look at the resources we had when we went to war, you've got laptops, you've got Wi-Fi, you can call home, you got gyms and everything. We ain't living in trenches, and people dying every single day by the hundreds or anything like that. So you got to kind of get used to that overseas, hey? Like, would you agree with that? Like,
Yeah. It's very, very different to what it would have been. Even Vietnam era. We were doing we did Hellfire Pass on our RCB trip, and talking to some of the Vietnam vets there, and they were like, "Oh, mate, we take the jungle any day of the week. Like, fuck Afghanistan, that's crazy." And we were like, "Are you high? I have Wi-Fi there, mate." Yeah. The Yanks came in and built a green beans. Like, I could finish a patrol, mate, come back and go get a frappe.
I remember it became a running joke towards the end where like we'd have jobs, because we'd have like, we were a busy unit. We had like at least 2 jobs a day.
Yep.
That would go for hours. You come back, it's like late afternoon, like got to go out again. Fuck's sake, righto, cool. Quickly kit up and go out. But the first job of the day, I'd always joke that I got to have a spice chai latte before I go to war.
Yeah.
You know, but because of the joke, I then just started purchasing spice chai lattes, and I'm like, these actually taste really good. But it was like our way of mocking what modern warfare. That, like you said, I can actually stand in line like I'm out of Gloria jeans. Order a coffee and then kit up. And then go out.
Yeah, they wonder why it costs the US trillions to go to war. It's because they're paying these guys to be for green beans. I remember because we were replaced by 2RAR.
Yep.
But that green beans was only built in like the last 8 weeks that we were there.
Right.
So for the first 6 months we had nothing. But the last 8 weeks, these guys rocked up and like we're war weathered. They're like, he's complaining about it. It's like, fuck off, man. It's only been there. It's been there 8 weeks. It has not been there the whole time. We've had it tough. Like we didn't have Wi-Fi initially. Those chalets, they got built while we were there. We were down in the Terp tents.
Oh yeah.
They were our accommodate. They were 6s before us.
Yep.
And then
yeah. Like we did have a good, like, you got a nice mess. I remember the first day when we flew in, and I quickly realised that it must be what they do every time people fly in. There was seafood on when we got there, and it was lunchtime straight away. Went to the mess, and there's prawns and fish everywhere. I was like, Jesus, this is all right. Yeah. I didn't see it the next day.
No.
And I only saw it when we were about to fly out, and the new guys flew in. Yeah. And I'm like, that's okay. Yeah.
It's the last meal.
It's the last. That's
what it is. The last supper.
Yeah, exactly right.
Yeah. Oh man, that's crazy. Yeah. What a heavy thing to have. Like, I know we lost a couple on our trip, but I didn't know any of them personally, so I was just sort of. I knew the guys that I knew. That was about it.
Yeah.
So I was very, very, very new for our deployment. Like like I said, we got to Battalion March 2010.
Yep.
I was on a plane by late September.
Oh wow.
Yeah. It was very quick. Yeah. It was a very, very quick turnaround.
And you're still trying to find your feet with everyone.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Judging you and like, how does he fit into the team?
Yeah. I was very lucky. In that one of the guys, one of the senior diggers, I ended up being the main gunner, and he got demoted from that. Bless his little cotton socks. He passed away last year, but he took a lot of the heat for me.
Yep,
he was a bit of a heat seeker, heart of gold, and an incredible friend, but like a heat seeker. It was gold, and he took a lot as the brand new lid in the section. He took all the heat off me, so that was kind of good, but. Yeah, we were based out of TK as well, so we got all the ramp ceremonies. And I remember doing Jamie Larkin was the first one we lost, the engineer.
Yep.
I wasn't there. I believe first rounds on, straight to the side from a PKM. But those poor boys had a similar experience to you because they were out. They had to get back to TK. So he was an engineer. Those engineers had to clear the route all the way back in. Like he gets on the bird, gets evac'd. And they're having to immediately
switch on.
And they were gone. I think it took them like 48 hours. They went solid to get back to TK or back to the base that they were at. They might not have gone there because they came in on a Black Hawk, and we were setting up for the ramp ceremony.
Yeah.
And like I was catapult party for it. We're setting up, and then I watched the Black Hawk land just outside the Black Hawk hangar there, the Apache hangar, and watch them get off and come in, and just that was heartbreaking.
Yeah.
Like they were destroyed. It sucks. I can only imagine what it would be like. Well, I know losing friends now, but not the same being over there that young.
Yeah,
would be.
And that, like, now I'm older. Now I look back at the responsibility you have when you're over there. I'm like, man, I know 22-year-olds now.
Yeah,
and I look at them and I'm like, man, when I was your age, like we were over there.
Yeah,
and you don't know.
Yeah,
like, well, you think you know because you're told that you're bulletproof, like we said. And you think that you're older than you are, but really, you don't know.
Yeah.
So it makes sense when you think, you know, and that's just going off how I know how I felt trying to process what's happening. Like it makes sense that there's so much confusion.
Yeah.
And you know, you're seeing how your other friends react as well. And I often say, I remember saying, like, my mate's partners, like, in a way, we all know each other better than our partners know.
Yeah.
Or your partner knows, your partner, because I've seen them in so many different emotional states that aren't normal.
Yeah.
You know?
It's a different knowing though. It's a different knowing because women remember dates. They remember like they will know all of this information about their friends and they're like, I know them. I have no idea when your birthday is.
No.
We've known each other 15 years and I know you very well.
Yep.
I couldn't like that. It's a different bond. I think that
true.
men in general have, but especially with the other AJs that you serve with, you may not know all of these little. Like my parents will be like, "Oh, where'd he grow up? I don't know. Oh, where's he from? How old is he? I don't know.
Don't know.
So, roughly the same age, I guess." And they're baffled. Like, but you're good friends. I don't know all these details, but I've seen them at their worst.
Yes.
And they've seen me at my worst, and I've seen them at their best.
Yep.
I've seen them operate in all, like I might not know all their details, but I know their character.
Yeah,
I know exactly who that person
like
is.
I know what you're like under pressure. It's a certain type of pressure.
Yeah.
But like you said, I don't know your birthday or anything.
Yeah,
like
I never a clue.
Yeah.
I don't know my birthday. It's a little near-miss.
Yeah, slow down, mate. Slow down.
So did you guys get any contacts?
Nah, man. Like that's the
same.
That's the frustration, right? That's something I had to deal with where I may as well get into it now. Like once I left the military, and I remember thinking, oh, no injuries, no mental health scars. Again, you compare your trip to that of the Anzacs. I go, really, my trip was nothing compared to the ones that have gone before us. So once I joined the police, and it wasn't that long into my first year in policing where I realized that something was off with me. And it took a while to actually seek out help and start talking about it. And it took almost like a couple of years till we really figured out what the cause was. Until I found like a really good psychologist that spoke essentially the same language as me. Because so many people wanted to say, yeah, you've got PTSD. Oh, you went to Afghanistan, you got PTSD. And I'm like, I don't think it's that, man. Like, my trip was okay. Like you said, I didn't really have any contacts, even though that's what we trained for. As an infantry soldier, you want that. You're seeking that. Particularly when your friends start dying, then you really want to go after it, right? But it doesn't happen. A really good depiction of that is the movie Jarhead, right? You amp yourself up for something and then all of a sudden you're going home.
Yeah.
And you kind of feel like you didn't do your job. But then, I kept having different psychologists say you got PTSD from Afghanistan. And that was kind of it. Like no one really scratched the surface. And then finally found a really good psychologist. And the more we started digging, realized it's more of an identity issue from leaving the military, which a lot of modern diggers have. We just don't, well, a lot of guys probably don't realize it. Going overseas in itself, that's a big thing. Normal people don't do that. Now, whether you had a hectic trip or not, every time you go outside the wire, we normalize it. We're up here, but we normalize it, right? Because we've trained for so long.
And you acclimatise to it.
You acclimatise it, and we're looking for that. And now, when you get back, and again, my example and many other people I know have the same example of you don't have your contact. You feel like you haven't proved yourself. You don't feel like you're worthy. And that's one element to it. But then also, as soon as you leave the military, it's its own world. It's its own culture. I'm lucky enough that I found like a paramilitary organization, which kind of helps. But I know, I have countless examples from friends who got out, went into normal jobs, and just struggled. Some took their own lives. Other guys turned to prescription drugs and alcohol. For me, I just didn't feel like I was right. Like I felt like I couldn't interact with normal people. I was having sleeping issues, things like that. And then, figured out it's an identity issue. I was just so used to the culture in the world, of the military. And now I'm not around my brothers every day. When you're back home at a battalion, you rock up in the morning, you're with your best friends who are your brothers every day, doing hard shit, doing PT twice a day. You're going out bush, God knows how many months of the year. They are your brothers. You're living with them all the time, and you're with like-minded people. We're doing stuff that other people, normal people, don't get to experience, and you're getting pushed to a higher level. Then you leave that, and you kind of realize that when you go out in the open world, people don't really respond to your sense of humor the same way.
Yeah.
The way you talk, your expectation of how a task should be completed.
Yep.
And you feel like you're doing the right thing, by trying to push people. But everyone turns on you. Like all the normal people turn on you.
Yeah.
And you're sitting there going, what the fuck? How am I in the wrong here? You start to feel isolated a little bit and like you don't fit in.
Yeah.
And that's what I kind of discovered. And my psychologist helped me realize that it is a form of PTSD and it's an identity issue.
Yeah.
And so many of my mates, I'm sure you've got the same thing, right? Have been through that. And there's probably a lot of guys who have that and don't even realize that's what the issue is.
Yeah. I find a trust is a big one. Because you get out, when you're in, all the people that you're with, even if you and me don't like each other particularly at the battalion, because you still have friendship cliques and whatnot, you know, guys you're better off with. But even if I don't get along with you, I know regardless, just because of the training you've been through and the environment that they're in, the bullets start flying, I know that you would take a bullet for me, and I know that I would do the same for you. There is that complicit, like everyone around me, regardless of how I feel about them, I can trust that they will do their job. They've got my back, and I've got theirs. You get into Civvy Street, and a lot of these companies, you don't have that.
Yeah.
That you could get along with someone the best you've ever got along with anyone.
Yep.
But if it comes to them or you, they'll choose them every time.
Yeah.
And they'll stab you in the back to get ahead.
Yep.
And it's not to say that every single civvy out there is going to be the same.
No.
But you lose the fact that everyone is.
Yeah, because like you said, like we've all been through the same thing. If we got to an infantry battalion, there's an equalizer. I know that you've been, and you could have gone in 2 years before me or after me, but we've been pressure tested to get to this point. Yep. And I know that about you because we're standing at the same unit doing the same job. Civvy Street, everyone comes from different backgrounds, and you know, particularly in the modern world now with how PC everything has to be. Like where I work now, there's a lot of guys that are coming from military straight into basically as an AO role to help be instructors. Yeah, and there's guys that are still finding their way of hey, it's not the army. Yeah, you know. I know some of you boys are going to listen to this. All right, I love you, you know that. But some of you boys, you still find your feet, okay? Yeah. It's all good. We'll get you there. Yeah. We'll get you there. You're in good hands. I'm with you, all right?
Uncle Tommy's got you
Uncle Tommy's got you. I've been through it, all right? Yeah, like there is an adjustment period. Some guys adjust really, really well. And other guys, like one of my best mates, Riles, he's X5 as well.
I know Riles.
You know Riles?
I know Riles very well. Private X.
Mess shop. Yeah. I've always say to him that I've never met anyone who has transitioned so easily and identity never seems to be an issue. He's the same guy he was when I met him. And I met him just before he got to 6 just after I got back from Afghanistan. And we bonded over discharging. Yeah. So that's how we met. I guarantee he was the same guy then that he was in high school before that. And he's the same guy now. Just loves life, will never attach himself to one thing, can just float through different social groups, challenges himself with different hobbies, different occupations, things like that. It's just so strange. Some guys can do it. And then there's other guys where the military just becomes everything, you know? Yeah. And I'm guilty of it as well, where...
We all are.
We all are, right? Yeah. You get out and, you know, it's Saturday. You're not in the army anymore. Why am I wearing 511s? Under Armour shirt.
I'm not guilty of that.
Oh, yeah, me either. How lame is that? So I would never do. No. That's so lame. But you know what I mean? Like, it's stuff like that. Or you catch up, you know, years down the track, you catch up with guys, and all they want to do is talk about the military. You're like, man, like there's other things going on in our lives. Like we don't need to do that. Like these days, very rarely do I. This is the first time I've really talked about AJ stuff in a long time. Yeah,
I probably get a little bit more with some of the guys I work with. We talk about it a little bit more, but we also, I'm the same. I try not to constantly bring it up, and when I do, I try to make sure it's relevant in some way. That there is a reason I'm talking about this. It's not a.
Whereas, like I said, there's heaps of ex-AJs now that I work with, and a lot of them, obviously, they gravitate towards each other because it's that brotherhood. Because you're mixing them with working with coppers as well. Yeah. I think, and a few of them said that they forget that I'm ex-military because I don't. Yeah. Like I never talk about, I don't carry myself like that anymore. And I'm like, well, that's good. That took me a long time. Yeah. And it really wasn't that long ago where I was able to like relinquish that and let it go.
What was it that helped you sort of relinquish that?
Once I realized that it was a problem, then me and my psychologist started developing strategies to remove myself from that. However, in the process of that, I then attached the police to my identity, and then I didn't realize that I just had the same problem.
Yeah.
And I really kind of burnt myself out.
Yeah.
Because I was attaching myself to my occupation. Again, it's a form of service. I was in the process of kind of getting rid of the AJ stuff, but then really ran with the police stuff. And at the time, I was going through some relationship issues as well. I had a newborn son as well. There's a lot of stuff going on in life, so it was hard to juggle all these stresses. Naturally, burnout just happened.
Yeah.
So, but I figured out the army problem, and then once I figured out the police problem, and with now, I've removed myself from like a high tempo kind of operational policing, and that has been a big help for me.
Yeah.
As well.
Yeah, I feel like you'd almost potentially see a lot more trauma being a cop. Like, I don't think cops get anywhere near enough credit. They're always shit talked. They're always like, the second somebody has a bad interaction, it's all over Facebook and whatever.
Yeah,
it infuriates me. I'm not even a cop, because I think there's far too much onus put on the police officer and none put on the person.
Oh yeah,
like that interaction. If you'd have literally just done what was asked at the start and been polite, the whole interaction is null and void. It's a very quick transactional.
And these days, anytime a police officer wants to do something, everyone wants to film us.
Yep. Yeah.
Even if it's like nothing.
Yeah.
I remember like multiple times just getting out of the car just to grab a coffee.
Yep.
And people are looking at you like, is something wrong? Like, no, dude.
Yeah, I'm just here for a coffee.
Literally just getting coffee. It's all good.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're absolutely right. I've done harder stuff and seen worse things as a police officer than in the military. The military prepped me.
Yes. Yeah.
For the police, I think, particularly the things I gravitated towards in operational policing. But yeah, the level of trauma that I've witnessed, I can't compare.
Yeah.
It's it's a tough job.
Yeah.
And like you said, majority of the public don't really know what officers go to.
No, not a clue.
Or see.
Yeah. And then that's not taken into account, because all they're getting is that one interaction with you. They've got no idea this could be the last hour of a fucking 7-hour shift, and you've just been to a double homicide or something previous. Like, whatever. It could have been horrendous, the previous job, and now you're rocking up to them, and all you want to do is like, look, mate, you were speeding, copper, take the fine, we move on. And they want to give you attitude.
Yeah.
And you're already up here from previous to what you've just been
have,
from.
Like, a good example, and I won't go into details about it, but I remember going to assist a colleague who'd been stabbed in the face and ended as a police shooting, assisting in that job, then coming back to the station. I still had like his blood underneath my fingernails. And then someone wanted to report a traffic crash, and they had to wait for a little while, and they had to go at me for how long they had to wait. And in my head, I'm thinking, if only you knew what the last hour and a half has been. But you can't say that.
Yep.
Because this person, they're here to report something that's happened to them. This is the biggest thing that's happened to them. So, you need to be professional and go, no worries. But like that stuff, like after a while, it drains you and it's heavy on you, because that's not just one day. Then you got to show up the next day and something else can happen. Or, public are angry about something. And they're not angry at you personally. It's the uniform that they're angry at.
Yeah.
But it's still heavy on you, you know? Like I said, if the public only understood what police officers went through, and not just, locally, like all around the world, every police officer, no matter where you work, has to kind of push through the same barriers and the same issues.
Yeah, and no one's filming the good interaction. Look, it's not happening.
Yeah, absolutely.
So all you're seeing is these one little microcosms of an interaction from, and it might not even be the full interaction either.
Yeah,
you've got none of the lead up. They're clipping it and they're putting that point where you're tasing them. And they haven't got the fucking 30 minutes prior of you throwing rocks at them and calling them a cunt. Like,
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
it's so. And like, don't get me wrong, there are some police officers around the world that
also
shouldn't be in the job.
Yes,
so that can definitely happen as well.
Yeah.
But like, I know personally, I haven't worked with any of those officers. I've only ever worked with like really professional officers, and I've known guys, particularly through that COVID period. That was a really tough period for officers around the world, because you had multiple things happening. Like you were having to deal with the public who are already really angry, and you represent the government, so they're angry at you. you're just trying to do your job as well as all the other jobs that are sitting there for you to respond to.
Yep.
And I know lots of officers that were considering or actually followed through with just leaving the service and doing something else because it's so much pressure, right? I don't blame them for that.
Yeah, especially if there's things that you're having to enforce as well, and if your own personal views, you're like, I think this is dumb, but my job is to do it.
Yeah.
That adds to it for sure as well.
Yeah, definitely.
I would imagine.
Yeah.
So what was that? What was the transition like then? You said it took you did it sort of on leave. What was it like transitioning from defence straight into the coppers?
It actually felt pretty seamless for me anyway. I know other people who had issues, other guys that went from military to police and the process took really, really long where they had to pick up other jobs and they didn't know when they were starting at the academy, things like that. It felt really seamless for me. And again, young dude with full of confidence. Like I was having the time of my life. Walked in and I look back now and I kind of wish I wasn't acting like that. A bit brash and cocky.
Yeah,
but hey, that's me.
We all were. We all
right?
were. You need some level of confidence, I think, to do that job as well.
Yeah. So I felt the transition was pretty seamless. But like I alluded to before, unbeknownst to me, there was other stuff happening internally that just hadn't come to the surface yet. And it makes sense that once you start operational policing, shift work puts pressure on you. The types of things that you're seeing and doing, it's only a matter of time before everything starts coming out and starts falling apart.
I think, do you think that it would be probably a better outcome if they switched from the 8-hour shifts to 12s and you had less days that you're there? Because I know for us, we do the 12s.
Some, like you talk to some people and they would love to do that. Other people, then they have their own reasons. Like, no, they don't want to do that.
Yeah.
I think it just comes down to the individual.
I just want to, I've talked to, obviously being ex-military as well, we got a lot of friends that are they're coppers. It's a sort of a natural progression for a lot of us coming from, especially from infantry.
Yep.
A lot of them are like, dude, I feel like I'm constantly at work. Like I'm not actually getting a break. So they're doing like 10-day fortnights or whatever and rocking up day after day to that shit. Whereas if you go to what I'm doing these days, it's 12-hour shifts. You do 2 or 3 days straight and then you might have 3 days off.
Yeah.
You might be able to pick up an overtime in that if you're really chasing some cash, but you get that decompression if you want it. So I think potentially that might be something that would help some people.
I know there are some units that do longer shifts. Like I do 9-hour shifts. There are other units that do 9 hours as well. Excuse me, you get a bigger break. But I remember talking to some people last year about like, what if you just did 12-hour shifts? And I remember one guy saying like, I just know that after 8 hours, I do not operate well.
Yeah,
and
that's
I was
fair.
like, oh, okay, I didn't even think of that.
Yeah.
I'm like, you just think, oh, you can get it all done real quick.
Yeah.
But again, that's why I say I think it's down to the individual. And I think whenever the feelers get put out for who wants to do what shifts, there's always like a divide.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
It's a crazy thing.
Hey, can I have a piss break?
Yeah.
Is that all right?
Yeah, we can pause it and go for a piss.
Awesome.
For sure. We'll be back. Yeah, so walk me through how you got to that point. Like you've delved into it a little bit, but what was it like around that area that you ended up sort of burning out, and how did you really identify?
Excuse me. So, like I said before, I'd supplemented my identity from military to police, and I was enjoying it. I got to taste a few little roles that were really in my element of things I like doing. One of them was like a plainclothes team I was part of, where we basically wrote our own roster and helped like the plainclothes investigators nab the guys that they couldn't really find and didn't have the time to kind of hunt down. Yeah. So I got to work with a really, really good team, and it felt like I was really enjoying like the adrenaline kind of drive of that, and I became like addicted to that because I found my strengths always to like deal with like a critical job or jobs involving a level of trauma or violence. Like again, military guys, we're good in those spaces because we're trained for it. You know, it's quite normal for us. We have the skill set for it. So as I was going through that period, then started going through a marriage breakdown, and just things started to unravel. When I went back into general duties, I didn't realize it at first. Like I don't think anyone ever does. But the burnout had started, and I started just chasing adrenaline, and my temper started becoming a lot shorter. I was tired all the time. You just keep pushing and pushing and pushing. And for me, I started to identify it when I've always prided myself on making good decisions and tactically sound decisions. And I noticed that I probably wasn't doing that as well as I had in the past. I noticed that the things that were normally my strengths were no longer as strong and almost becoming a weakness. And luckily, I was able to identify and have the self-awareness and went, something's wrong here. And once, I think a few other people I work with had noticed it as well. And I know at least 2 people who on the shift said something to me.
So they did bring it up with you?
Yeah, they did bring it up.
It's good someone was paying attention as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I just started feeling anxious on the way to work, like physically sick on the way to work, almost terrified of going to work. And once it just got worse, I just went, I need to talk to someone. So spoke to, my supervisors about it and started looking at what else I can go and do. Because I kind of made the decision, and probably at the time I didn't realize it would be, and it may not be forever a decision, but I just said, I need to get away from this for a while, like frontline policing. So we looked at what the options were. The current role I'm doing now, working in like a training unit as like policing skills instructor, wasn't able to get straight over there. So I had to go into another unit for a little while just to buy time, which was really good because it was like a crime prevention unit. And it was interesting looking at, you're speaking to a lot of victims of crime, people who've had their house broken into, things like that. And you're providing them like support services. And it was interesting doing that role I only did it for a couple of months, but looking at it from a different perspective, because when you're like a general duties officer, you go into that many jobs, you are speaking to victims all the time, but because you're so busy and you become so used to it, and this is why you probably see people go, oh, that officer I spoke to talked to me like shit. Majority of the time, they don't realize that they are. They're just so, what's the word for it?
Numb to it?
Yeah,
like a lack of empathy.
Yeah,
just because
you start losing your empathy because you go into so many jobs, you're tired within yourself, you dealt with this. And I remember at the academy and like in my first year, people saying like, just remember when you go to a job, this is the biggest thing that's happening to this person. It might be the 6th, 7th, 8th job of the day for you, but this is the biggest thing that's ever happened to this person. Right? So you have to be professional and respectful of that. And it's easy to forget that. But when I went to crime prevention, you were spending time, your whole job was spending time with victims and talking to them. It was really interesting. Like I was just sitting with people for an extended period of time and actually taking the time to hear their story and offer proper support for them, because I don't have all these jobs lined up going one after the other. I'm just spending time with victims. And it gave me a really good appreciation, kind of reminded me about how you should be as a police officer. Because I think I felt I was losing that a little bit when I was burning out. I was just becoming angry and frustrated at the world. So that kind of helped me out a little bit. And then not long after, I spent a few months in that unit, I was able to transition to the job that I'm in now, which is essentially the physical skills component of training police recruits and also like the requalification training of in-service police officers. And that's something I really, really enjoy. And I feel like that's given me new purpose within the police and definitely saved me in many ways. If I hadn't had moved out of operational policing, I don't know what I would be like right now. Because I was headed in a really, really bad direction, I feel. So it definitely saved me. And now, work Monday to Friday, normal hours, coming off shift work, definitely has improved my mental health. Like I feel like a completely different guy than I did, was it 3 years ago? Now. And I always, like, I speak to people, like mates that are still out in general duties and other units. And they tell me that they're tired, they're burning out. I say, if you can, like, find something else that just gets you off shift work. Shift work alone, you take that away and you'll start improving your mental health.
Yeah, well, if you're not interrupting your sleep and you can get a good night's sleep every night. And that there and alone and of itself is going to be a huge benefit.
Just finding something else that you're passionate about. And I'm sure, and we'll get into it obviously, but like being able to, along that journey where you kind of, our paths crossed again because we hadn't seen each other in a long time, like I found acting. And the role I do now allows me to really drive home with my passions.
Yeah.
Spend more time with what I'm passionate about, rather than making work everything.
Yeah.
Like now, I don't feel like I have that identity issue with the police. Like I finish work, that's it. Take the uniform off.
Yeah.
You know, there's no jobs that are sitting with me anymore.
Yep.
Or I'm not dwelling on them. It's just I go to work, I do my thing. I'm working with like some of my best mates, doing a job I enjoy. We're having a laugh all day, and then that's it.
You have to work with some flogs as well, though, geezer.
I forgot. You know Geezer. Yeah,
I do know Geezer.
Geezer, you're all right. You're one of the best.
All right.
Loves jumping on a new fad.
Yes, he does.
Don't you, mate?
He's
but
a
I love
fattest.
you for it. You're a fattest. Yeah,
Loves it. No, that's good, man. That's really good to hear that
Yeah.
you've actually made a positive change from that. What was it like going through all of that with a relationship breakdown as well? You don't have to get into the specifics of, I don't know how much detail you want to give on that relationship, but what's it like going through that sort of breakdown?
Hard.
Because you guys were long term, like you guys were together for quite a while, from what I remember.
For a little while, yeah. I won't go into too much detail.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's going through that at that time was very difficult. Again, like I look back at it now and go, Jesus Christ, there was a whole bunch of issues going on with me. Still trying to get through the military stuff and understand that while trying to work out the trauma or the identity issue with the police, and then probably a couple of jobs that I went to as an officer as well, that were staying with me. And then, going through a relationship breakdown with a young child. It was tough. I get out on the other side now and look back because now I have the tools on how to deal with my own personal issues. Sometimes I'm surprised I made it through.
Yeah.
To be honest. Yeah. And we both have, examples of mates that have been through various types of trauma, not had the coping mechanisms or found coping mechanisms that don't help them at all. Or unfortunately, they go even worse and take their own life.
Yes. Yeah.
So I look back now and go, thank fuck I went through that. Or, had the tools and the people around me to help me through it.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. So then you get out of police, or not out of police, but out of that. When did the podcast start?
So the podcast actually started, rewind a little bit, because one of my best mates from the military, Shane, we were at Six together. We went overseas together. We were in essentially separate units while we were overseas, but we're on the same trip. While I started going through my military issues, even before I got to the police issues started, Shane was also going through the same thing. He tried, like I said before, he was one of the guys who tried just going to normal civilian jobs and it just wasn't working out. Yeah. He was having blowups with people. He couldn't find his purpose. A couple of times he attempted suicide, things like that. He was also having the thing where he would talk to people and they would say, you have PTSD. And he was like, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. My trip wasn't that bad. And one day I went to his house and we were talking much like you and I are now about our issues and how we felt. And we were having a laugh while doing it. And he just randomly said, hang on, I just want to film this for some reason. I'm like, why the fuck are you filming this? So he gets a GoPro out and he just puts it at the end of the table. We're just sitting in his dining room like, this is weird. He goes, I don't know, I just feel like we should film what we're talking about. Yeah. I feel like it's important. Okay. So we keep talking. A couple of hours later, I drive home. And on the drive, he rings me and says, hey, man, I just watched back that footage. Like, the stuff we're saying is quite interesting. I reckon there's a lot of guys that feel the same way. But also, the way we're talking about it, it's like dark humor. It's funny. It's
have a laugh about it.
Yeah, military guys talk. Yeah. And I said, okay, are you saying we need to do something with this? He goes, I think so. And the idea of podcast wasn't what came up first. Yeah. I think originally the idea, and I look back now going, that was never going to work. He wanted to, I should say, I'm not going to throw Shane on the bus.
No, it
was all you,
all
Shane.
On
this
was
all your idea, was to like get a deal with like a local RSL and host like regular men's meetup for military guys, which it's a good idea.
Not a bad idea, yeah.
But that's as far as the idea went. Yeah. And then it was like, okay, once everyone gets in the room, what do we do? Yeah. Drink piss. Well, that doesn't seem like a good idea. And also back then, like Shane was an alcoholic, not knowing he was an alcoholic. Yeah. So we went through all these ideas, and then eventually we came up with, hey, podcasts seem to be like a thing. Let's do that. And that's what we did. We started a podcast where it would start off as just me and Shane talking about our issues as we were going through
them.
And we're putting it out there. And it was really weird because we started getting a fair bit of a following from overseas, which is strange. We had like
really
soldiers from America, Canada, and the UK,
yeah,
and even coppers as well, messaging us on social media,
yeah,
saying, "Hey, listen, like what you said really resonated with me." I'm like, this is so weird. Okay. And then we started bringing in guests, and the whole format of the show, or the theme of the show, was if you're ex-military or emergency services, and you've been through something, come on, and if you're comfortable enough to talk, like, what did you do to get through it? And that's how it was. But we kind of kept that dark humor about it.
Yeah.
Still talking about our issues, but in a funny way, how most people that we know would be talking about it.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't all have to be doom and gloom. You can still talk about that stuff.
Yeah.
And there can still be humor in it. And yeah, it started getting more traction, and there's a handful of episodes that are still like, we haven't done an episode in like nearly 2 years.
Yeah.
But it's still popular. And when I started working where I am now, training recruits, I first got there, and because I was still doing the podcast like regularly at the time, recruits were coming through who I'd never met before. And this happened on a handful of occasions. And on day 1 or 2, people would come and go, "Are you Tommy Archer from the MalAdjusted Monkeys podcast?" I'm thinking, how the fuck do you know that?
Did you put the aviators immediately on and be like, yes?
Come on, mate, silly question. They're never off. They're never off. Asleep in them. But it seemed to be, especially with the police recruits, it seemed to be this certain episode that somehow recruits would find prior to joining the job, where I interviewed one of my old bosses, Andy DePere, and this was like an old school copper. He's retired now, talking about issues he's having. And that also resonated with a lot of guys I know, guys and girls in the service, that once they saw someone in that position of that vintage start talking about, hey, it's all right. Like, I break down and cry. I go to jobs as well, and I struggle with them, and it's all right for you to feel the same way. That seemed to like really resonate with a lot of people I know in the police.
I think that'd be one of the biggest issues I think most people would have, is feeling they're the only one that has this.
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
Because you look around, and because everyone does it internally, and everyone does it in their quiet space by themselves. They're not breaking down, crying at the job because you can't. They're looking around at everyone else who's also holding it together, and they're like, "Well, I must be the only one feeling this because everyone's got game face on.
Everyone has game face on,
like all the time." And then you find out later that everyone was terrified the whole way.
Or
shitting themselves.
There's this other thing that happens where I'll speak to guys who will be like, "Oh no, mate, I don't have issues." I'm like, you can't do this job and not have issues. I just think to a degree you're not aware of them. Like really good police officers, and they don't show anything's wrong with them. I reckon there'd be an element in their life that suffers, and they just haven't picked up on it yet.
They haven't made the correlation.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I had a similar experience. The psych going through DBA pointed something out to me when I was having like a chat with her, and she was like, "How do you go driving?" And I was like, "I fucking rage. Like, I road rage. Like, I hate it. Like, I enjoy driving. If I can go on a road and there's no one else around, I enjoy that. It's nice, relaxing. But like traffic, I'm raging." She's like, "Oh yeah." She's like, "So what'd you do overseas?" I was like, "Oh, I was a machine gunner." She's like, "It's like at the top?" I was like, yeah. She's like, "How often?" I was like, "Well, basically 7 days a week. Like, we rarely had days off, and we would do 2-3 tasks a day. Sometimes we'd be out driving around." She's like, "So what was your job doing that?" And I was like, "Scanning for threat." Oh,
there it is.
Yeah. She's like, "You think maybe that's why? Because you were like operating up here, scanning for anyone looking to kill you while you were driving for like 9 months every day. Do you reckon maybe that has a..." And I was like,
isn't it weird?
I had not even, like, I had not correlated that at all.
No.
And now I rage and I get conscious of it. I try not to rage, but I still, like, cut me off. Oh, yeah. It's funny how that kind of stuff happens. And I imagine it would be, you'd be right. There'd be people with little elements that are probably falling apart, and they're not seeing that it's connected. They're not making that jump.
Yeah.
They're just seeing that something sucks.
Well, they might not even be aware that things are falling apart either.
True.
They might just think this is just what life is.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, I think, like I said, there's a handful of episodes in our podcast that definitely resonated with people. But myself and Shane found that we started the podcast talking about our issues, and what was interesting, and I think why people kind of resonated with it, was that things were happening in our life that week we were able to talk about as it was happening in real time.
Yeah.
And people went on this journey, particularly when Shane went through some really dark stuff, which he spoke about on the podcast as it was happening. And I think people really clung to that. Same with like people that were police officers and are police officers. Anything that I spoke about resonated with them. And then once the guests came on, we were accessing, a wider audience. I had someone from the ambulance on, like people in the space of like charity organizations helping veterans. Like we started kind of branching out to that. But I think personally, me and Shane, we started healing because of that show.
Yeah.
Because we were able to talk about our issues, but then have people on basically saying, hey, I've been through the same thing. This is what I did. And then we look at it from a different perspective going, oh, shit, I didn't even think of doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How did the MalAdjusted Monkeys name come about? Because it's a very strange...
I came up with it because...
It's a mouthful.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because I think I was at home one day and my thought process was like, me and Shane, we're just these two maladjusted dudes. And I was like, we just don't fit into the world at that moment. And we're basically like idiot monkeys.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, maladjusted monkeys. That's how I kind of came up with it.
There you go.
And I rang Shane. He's like, I love it. And then every time you tell people, they're like, sorry, what is it? I'm like, the maladjusted monkeys. And I thought maladjusted was quite a common word.
No, people are not that great with their vocabulary these days.
So the amount of times when I say it, I always have to repeat it. The what? Yeah. The what monkey? Maladjusted. Maladjusted, what's that? I'm like, really?
How do you know?
Like, I'm an idiot and I don't want
not adjusted. The opposite of adjusted. What do you mean? Yeah. Mal. It can't be good. It's not like the well-adjusted monkeys. We'd call it that.
Well, that's what we could call it now. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Are you going to keep doing it?
So that's something I spoke to Shane about recently, because while we kind of took a long period off, he moved way out west.
Oh, right, okay.
And it was hard for him to get back to do the show. And then so much time had passed that he got to a point where he just felt he doesn't really want to do it. When I spoke to him recently, he said, I don't feel I need to talk about it anymore.
Yeah.
I said, hey, that's fine. So I asked him if he's happy for me to keep the show going, maybe retool a little bit, which he said, yeah, happy to. So in the coming weeks, that's what I'm going to look at doing.
Exciting.
Yeah, it'd be good.
Yeah.
Got some ideas for it, but it's the hardest part for me is like I started it with Shane. We have a certain chemistry.
Yeah.
Which is something people always comment on about the show, is how me and Shane are with each other.
Yeah.
And at first I didn't want to do it because I'm like, I don't want to... That was me and Shane's thing.
Yeah.
And also if I do it with another co-host, I don't want to try to replicate what me and Shane had. It has to be completely organic to that other person.
Yeah. I think if you're going to continue it, you'd have to just do it by yourself or get Shane back.
Yeah. Okay.
I think if you put another... It would be, it'd be a little bit off. If you put a different co-host in, it would change a little bit and it wouldn't be the same sort of thing.
Yeah.
Whereas I think if it's just by yourself, you can sort of carry that on a little bit.
Yeah. I've got a few ideas, so it will come back because people keep asking me when's the next episode, and a few people have messaged me saying, hey, I would love to come on the show.
Yeah,
I'm like, okay, there's still a desire for people to listen to the show.
Yeah.
I
think there's an audience out there for almost anything, really. I mean, look what Netflix puts out.
Well, yeah. Although, Netflix,
please hire me.
Give us a job. Please give us a job. We would love to be on it.
Yeah. So that brings us sort of to the film work. Obviously, very similar in the fact that I think we both wanted to be actors when we grew up. Yeah. I don't know what you were like. I sort of looked at it initially when I got into the industry. I'd wanted to do it straight out of high school.
Yep.
I auditioned for QUT. I knew nothing about it because I'd done no drama throughout school. I'd done like my high school musical, which I didn't really... It's a whole other story. But I sort of went and auditioned for QUT, had no idea how to do it. So like half-assed an audition, I just remembered lines and went for it and didn't get accepted. And I was like, well, the other thing I want to do was a soldier. So off we went to the army. But I sort of, as I grew older, I looked at it more... I think I'm very much more a realist. Some say pessimist, but I'm not. I'm very much a realist. I'm like, there is every chance this fails. I hope it doesn't.
Yep.
But I'm very well prepared for if it does. I looked at it as like winning the lotto. I was like, sure, I could try, but like, what's the chances I'll ever, make it anywhere of any career out of it? I'll just end up being, a broke loser, living on mum and dad's couch at 50, like, who's that actor? And everyone laughs behind your back. And then I kind of, as I got to a certain point where I was just like, the only thing stopping me is me. Like, let's just have a go and see what happens.
Yep.
What was that like for you? What was the sort of the transition into the industry?
It was strange because, like I said at the beginning, 3 things I wanted to do since I was a kid. And then when I was in high school, did drama, but drama didn't really interest me as much. I think that's just no knock on like high school drama teachers, but the subject and content you do in high school drama isn't like what we're doing now when we do workshops and stuff. So it didn't interest me, but I did filmmaking, and I really enjoyed writing, getting behind the camera, essentially cinematography, and just creating stories. But then I would also jump in front of the camera and enjoyed creating characters. So I thought that's what I was going to do when I left high school, because out of all my subjects, I was getting C's for everything. But every time I went to film and television, I was getting A's.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, this is what I need to do. And I remember my film and television teacher, Mr. James, said, mate, you need to go and do this. As soon as you leave here, get into uni, excuse me, continue this path. Great. And then I realized how hard it is to get into uni.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
Not easy.
So that kind of fell by the wayside, and I forgot about that. But there would always be, ever since I was a kid, I was obsessed with watching films and learning and understanding everything that went into making a film. Most of my memories from growing up, I associate with a film. Like someone can tell me about an incident that happened in our life, and I would go, oh yeah, I remember that because that was the week me and Dad went and saw Lethal Weapon 4 on a Thursday night, opening night. I associate it with films. Yeah. So there were always touchstones in my life where I could tell I was passionate about it, but wouldn't go anywhere. And I actually remember speaking to you, I think we were at Kapuka, about films and getting into acting and things like that. Yeah. So then fast forward all the way through military, police, and then I think I started the podcast at the time, and I had started, when I started going through my issues with military and police, I think my dad said to me, you should write down your issues in the form of a book. It might help you get that out. So I started doing it, but it just didn't read right. And I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. I feel like an idiot. And then Dad said, why don't you write like a film script? You're good at that. Just write down what's in your head and the things you've been through as a script. So I started doing that. And as I started writing it, I was mixing fiction and non-fiction, essentially. And I was like, oh, if this was on television or a movie,
I'd watch it.
Yeah, this would be a cool kind of thing. So I was taking elements from what I'd seen in the military and police and putting them into a story. And I just had it sitting there, didn't do anything with it. And then one of the first guests we had on the podcast, Sean Barry from Extra Specialists. And we had never met him before, but someone told me, hey, there's this guy who's ex-military who gets ex-AJs as, extras in films. And Danger Close had just come out. So just messaged him on Instagram, never met him. He came out and we got along like that, me, him and Shane. It was one of the funniest episodes and we were talking for hours. And when we had a bit of a break halfway through filming, we were talking about the industry and I said, I'd love to get into it. It's something I've always thought about. And I told him about how I'd written something. And Sean said, oh, you should probably do something with that. If you ever want to do something, let me know. So I didn't really think anything of it. And then weeks or months later, I was working and me and my partner went and got Thai food and you walked past.
I remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I hadn't seen you in years. Yeah. But we followed each other on social media. Yes. I was well aware that you're doing acting. And every time I saw a post, I was like, fuck, that's cool. How did he get into that? Love to do that. And this is why I really believe that the universe has a plan and things just happen, right? I run into you and we're quickly talking and you mentioned the podcast and everything like that. And I was like, yeah, doing that. And I said, what are you up to now? And you said, I'm on my way to acting class. Where was that, by the way?
It was at Wollongabba.
Was that what Ben Parkinson?
Yeah. Oh, okay, yeah. Ben Parsons and casting. Would have been...
Joey?
I don't know if it was it might have been one with Joey. It could have been one of Chrissy Sexton's. I can't remember.
Yep.
One of the two.
So I said that to you and you go, oh, you should come next week. Yeah. And I was like, oh, nah. Oh, I think I gave you like an answer like, maybe, mate. And you went, cool, I'll message you. And I was like, yeah, sure. And I wasn't going to go.
Yeah.
A few weeks later, maybe a week later, you messaged me. You're like, hey, man, class is on. Yeah. You should come. And I think I knocked you back the first time. And then you messaged me again. And I went, okay, I'll come along. And that was with Beck.
Yeah. That would have been a workshop with Joey then. It wouldn't have been Christie's because I was still doing Beck's.
Yep.
That's right.
So you basically forced me to go. And
forced you into it.
So I think the way you sold it to me was...
clearly just didn't take a hint.
No.
I'm that dense.
No. Yeah. So you said, this is what you told me was going to happen. Because I said, I don't know, man. Like, am I able to come and watch? And you're like, yeah, you can just come watch and like just sit at the back.
Yeah.
And I remember, because you were living Paddington at the time.
Yes. Yep.
We caught up beforehand, had a few drinks. Pato Tav.
Yeah.
Then we went to class and you introduced me to Beck and everyone else. And I was like, oh, this is cool, man. There's a lot of people here. This is strange. I've never been in that environment, before. So it was a very strange experience, now dealing with creatives when you used to alpha male type people in military and police. So I felt a bit off. And then we walked in and there was like cameras and lighting set up. I was like, oh, cool. This is like what you see on films and TV. Yeah. And then I got handed a script, paired up with someone. And I remember saying to the other actress, I was like, what are we doing? It's like, well, we quickly got to read through this, then we'll go up perform it. I was like, oh no, I'm just watching.
Yeah.
It's like, it doesn't look like you are.
Yeah.
And then I started peeking.
Yeah.
And then like 5 minutes went like that.
Yeah.
I'd never really read a script before. I'm like, what the fuck? I can't remember any of this.
Yeah.
And then Beck called me up and, I'd never stood on a mic before. I'd never had anyone mic me up. And I'm like, there's cameras, the light, there's someone micing me up. And I can't remember what his name was. Chris. I remember saying to Chris, hey man, I've never done this before. And he's like, oh, mate, have fun. You'll enjoy it. I'm like, I don't think I will. I remember sweating a lot. And I'm like, I was just here to watch. And I remember looking at you. You were sitting in the shadows. And I was like, what the fuck? And you just gave me a thumbs up.
You're right.
Then did it. Poorly. I'd love to see the footage of that first one. It would have been awful.
They all are.
They all are, right? And I remember getting through it. And then like everyone clapped as they did. And I was like, oh, thank God. And I started trying to like walk off and take my mic off. And Beck's like, oh, no. So now I'll give you direction and you'll do it again. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me, mate?
Yeah.
But like got through it.
Yeah.
And I went, oh, hang on. Like, I think I really enjoyed this.
Yeah.
And
a different experience.
Yeah, different experience. So, but that came at a point in my life where I needed something. This ties into the identity thing. I needed something that wasn't my job of serving, right? It wasn't a uniform. And it rekindled a passion that I had since I was a kid. I just completely forgot about it. I'm a creative at heart. Yeah. I just forgot I was a creative because when you join the military, that kind of side's not encouraged, right? Particularly back in like 2009.
Yeah.
So I reckon I've probably convinced myself I wasn't a creative because you're around a different culture and I just forgot about it. But then once I had that first night of that class and obviously kept going. Yeah. So I have you to thank for that because if you and I didn't walk past each other at that point in time.
I'd forgotten about that meeting actually. I didn't realise that was
that was it, man.
The catalyst. I hadn't realised. I knew we'd messaged and I got you to come to class, but I did not realise that was...
That was why. Yeah. So if we don't walk past, then...
Because that was a proper blast from the past.
Wasn't it? Yeah. Like just happened to be at that time. So, yeah, it started doing classes and realised real quick that it started as, I guess, a hobby. Because I wasn't sure what I wanted to do with it. And then through seeing how like your career with it's progressed and then meeting other people and like advancing in like technique and skill set and experience, I realized real quick that I think this is what I'm meant to do. I feel really comfortable in this. I enjoy this. I feel like I'm just getting a lot out of it. Yeah. And I want this to be my full-time thing.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was just going like it's just trying to get experience as quickly as possible. Like I still am now, like mad researching everything as much as possible. Like how can I get better? How can I put myself forward? But it was weird. It was a hard transition because it felt so foreign, but it also felt natural. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. It was that first shock of holy shit. I'm around people I'm not used to. Like. Again, that identity thing, these people don't talk like I talk.
There's a lot of self-censorship that happens.
Oh, well, I remember, I think I said to you after like 2 or 3 classes, I think I said to you, I'm like, man, I feel like you and I are very different to the majority of people in this room and purely because of our background.
Yeah, it's a very... You coming out of the military into any other civilian employment, you're a fish out of water.
Yep.
But this is like a whole... other kettle of fish
because you got to be vulnerable.
Yeah, yeah. Which I think coming from our respective backgrounds, I think we've got it's a benefit, but it's also a hindrance. We've got the benefit of having so much different life experience that we can draw on, but we also come with all of the walls are up.
Oh yeah,
everything's walled off. Yep. I haven't felt an emotion in the last 10 years. Yeah, and now you want me to show emotion in front of a bunch of other human beings.
Yep,
and who are sitting there judging me
and do that repeatedly.
Yep,
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think even in that space, like I've found it cathartic to a degree.
Yep.
And it's definitely, I think there's a combination of the longer you're out of the military, the more you soften up and become, more of a human being again, for lack of a better phrasing.
These days, I don't feel like a soldier trying to be an actor now. I'm like, if there's a character where it's like, hey, he's a soldier, I'm like, oh, okay, I can do that.
Yeah.
But I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
Because we did it. I'm like, what else can we do? I want to be characters and do other things. So definitely agree that like can be a hindrance. But I think you and I are in the same boat now. Like we did that a while ago. We're not just that. We're not just soldiers trying to be actors.
Yeah. There is also definitely a benefit to having that though.
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
One of the acting coaches I worked with told me, she's like, every new actor wants to play out of the box and you want to do this cool and play these cool characters and whatever. She's like, you know what you need to do though? You can't play out of the box unless you get in the box. So get in the fucking box.
Yep.
If you're a soldier, play fucking soldiers.
Yeah, right.
Play it because at some point they'll start employing you to do that and then you can pay your bills doing it and then you'll be in a position where you've got enough money that you can go, I no longer want to do that. I want to do something else. Yeah. But she's like, unless you do that, you're probably never going to get there. Like lean into your strength to get to where you need to go.
Oh, mate, the first few things I booked, like both non-paying and paid gigs, were police officers. Yeah. And I'm like, cool, I understand this. So I don't feel nervous because I know how to act like a police officer. Yeah. Some would agree that for the last 10 years I've been acting like a police officer anyway. So I'll just do it in another space. Yeah. So like you got to lean into. Yeah. It's like, it's the same what they say about writing. Write what you know. Yep. You know, everyone wants to write the next Star Wars, but I've never fucking lived on Mars.
Yeah, exactly.
So I don't know.
It wasn't even Mars in Star Wars. So
but there you go. I don't watch Star Wars, mate. So I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, what the Death Ship, whatever it is, mate, Death Star. All right, I've never owned a Death Star. Is that better? Is that Star Trek or Star Wars?
It's Star Wars.
But also, please hire me in the next Star Wars.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll do it.
I promise I'll do my research.
Han Solo's getting old. I'll do it.
Yeah, need another Captain Kirk.
Yeah.
Just kidding. I know.
Oh man. Yeah. No, I've definitely found it. I feel like it's the longer I'm out, the more emotions are coming back. Yeah. What do you feel like? What do you feel when you're doing a scene? Like what do you feel genuine emotion as you're doing it or no?
Not always.
Yeah.
Not always. Like, I don't think you have to.
Yeah. Because I feel nothing a lot of the time.
I knew you were about to say that. Yeah.
Yeah. I worried sometimes. And
I know, and you've probably seen the same thing where, and this is no knock on them, like if this is your process, I hate using that, then this is your process where you'll see an actor have to do a really emotional scene and they do their best to show, hey, I'm crying, whatever, and then they call a cut. Yeah. And then they're like, sorry, I just need a minute. I was so in it then. Yeah. I'm like, okay. Like, it's just, it's not real. And this could be because, again, our backgrounds, we've gone to some real stuff before that I'm like, this could be worse. Like, failing in front of a camera is completely fine. Yeah. And nothing's going to kill me here. Yeah. So, like, when you do those harder scenes, like, sometimes maybe I'll go, oh, fuck, I really, like, do feel something. Other times, I don't, but you're just pretending. Yeah. And if you can make the audience believe, then that's all. That's right.
Yeah.
That's all you need.
That's what I
don't know if that makes sense.
No, to me it does. I don't know whether anyone listening at home is going to understand what's going on.
Right now, there's some AJs like, talk about more military shit.
Tell me about Terry Taliban.
He's sharpening his K-bar in his underwear. Get back to MTF5.
Playing COD in his helmet. we had a guy do that. We had a guy. His nickname, unsurprisingly, was Bell Tower, because for those playing at home, we were pretty sure at some point he was going to take a rifle into a bell tower and start taking out civvies.
We all know those guys, right?
He was found in his room on base playing Call of Duty, wearing his body armor and helmet.
Well, I'll just throw you under the bus, Riles. I have a photo, but Riles, to be fair, Riles is taking a piss. I have a photo of Riles wearing his chest rig. I'm pretty sure you're in jocks and you've got stubbies in your mag pouches.
Oh, mate. That's amazing. How many people ditched by the end of the trip, ditched mags for a Red Bull can? Like, honestly.
End of the trip?
Oh, yeah.
Tomo?
Yeah.
If you're listening, notorious for the monster cans. While we have this moment, I need to piss again, dude. I'm so
me
sorry.
Too.
Let's go together.
In a second.
You can secure my hips.
Where were we? We were talking about... Yeah, like emotion when you're acting, what you feel. Because I've done Tom McSweeney down in the Goldie.
Yeah, I did.
Cannot recognise him enough.
Yeah,
you did? Yeah.
Beginning of last year.
Really enjoyed it. Great class. We had a really good group, which was nice.
Yep.
But he always does this thing at the end of the scene. He's like, how do you feel?
Yeah.
And I was like, you need to stop asking me that, Tom,
I know.
because I feel nothing. Like I literally feel like I don't feel anything. It's a weird,
I know what you mean. Yeah, like, when you do some workshops and some people will ask you that question or really want to get into your psyche of what you're feeling. You're like, well, I'm just doing a job right now. I know that I understand the character, I understand the setting, I understand his intent.
Yep.
I understand that. But me personally, sometimes I'm not really feeling anything.
Yeah. I feel numb.
Yeah.
Like I can feel good or bad about the performance. I'll be like, yeah, I feel like I didn't really nail that. Or I feel like, no, I did a good job.
Yes.
But I don't actually feel anything, which I don't know if that's you know what I mean? Like if that's a hindrance. Like I want to know what it's like. Like when people, you look at like Cillian Murphy and stuff, like is he really feeling all of that? You know, that emotion? Like I'm like, I want to know what that's like. I want to be at a position where I'm like fully immersed and I'm feeling all the emotions this character should be feeling.
Like I was saying before, you don't have, it's not about you.
Yeah.
If I'm the audience member, and you're doing some scene on TV and I watch it and I'm like, fucking hell, this is heavy, and I'm like, I'm feeling it. I don't know if you were feeling it.
Yeah.
So,
well, I want to know what that's like though. Is more what I'm kind of getting at. If that's what other people are getting, I want to know what that experience is like. Like I'm getting to a point in my life where I want to experience different things and get a different perspective on stuff.
Yep.
Because I know I'm where you are. I'm at that point where, like, we know that people have certain reactions to certain situations and you can mirror that.
Yeah.
You know that every time something devastating happens, someone doesn't just automatically break down to tears.
Yeah.
Like you said with, your friend in Afghan Robbie that passed away, numb. Like you didn't know your confusion. So you potentially just a fucking, just a blank look.
Yeah, you're just like a mannequin.
Yeah, but the audience is getting all of the information built up, so they know the context. So when you give that blank face, they feel.
That's true.
Because they're like, but I want to know what it's like to put myself in that position in front of camera and feel that.
Yeah, okay.
You know what I mean? And give like a genuine reaction instead of just kind of mirroring what I know these things can be.
Okay.
If that makes sense?
Yeah, no, absolutely does. I don't know how you get to that. Like you almost have to have certain experiences happen to you in life that actually do affect you.
Yeah.
You can't force them to happen.
Yeah. Which is where we come to the duality of having come from where we come from. If I'm sitting alone, like I'm not told anyone of these, but like driving around randomly of late, I am just getting hit with these random waves of emotion. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know where it's coming. I don't know.
Yep.
And I'll just suddenly feel like I could cry sitting there in the car, and I'm like, there is nothing. There's no trigger. Like someone's like, oh, what's the trigger? Not a clue.
No
I'm just and it hits me. But I sit in front of a camera, and you're like, your character's just had his entire family decapitated in front of him, and his wife was raped, and it's just horrible. I'm like, I could not, even if I sat there and thought of something super traumatic, I wouldn't be able to get that emotion up. Like
what if we sat you down? Here's your mark. Okay, here's the scene. You're on deployment in Afghanistan. You know what I mean? Like, and we paint a picture that you understand, or you've just received a phone call. One of your best mates has said one of the boys from 5 has passed away, self-inflicted, and they want you to contact one of the family members. Surely part of you though.
I can sit there now. I've had that phone call, and I can sit there right now and think about it. And there is another human being in this room, and it
just won't work.
There's nothing.
Yeah, right. Okay, that's interesting.
It's a strange. Yeah, that's the duality. And I remember you told me a while ago we were talking about something similar. I can't remember exactly what the context was, but you'd brought up Boston. Having Boston it was like it.
Oh man,
just. So you're like, I cried everything, like all the time. And I've had other friends say the same thing.
That's absolutely right.
So at this point, I think I need to find a baby mama just for my career.
When you're doing your Academy Awards acceptance speech, did a lot for this role.
Yeah. So you found that since having
Oh yeah, and where I first realized, like, when Boston was first born, as a baby and as a father, like when they're an infant, it's hard to feel anything really because you don't really get to do anything. Like it's all mum at that point that's keeping Bub alive. But as they start developing their personality and everything like that, then I don't care who you are. I think as a dad, you're gonna feel something. Where I first started realizing it was going to jobs as a police officer that involved children. That prior to that, I'd go to jobs that involved children and I wouldn't feel anything because it was just another job. But now you're imprinting your child into that job. And I remember being at a job where the child looked exactly like Boston. Again, won't go into detail, but my frustration at that job boiled out. It was on display for everyone at the job.
Yeah.
Purely because I just attached my son to that.
Yeah.
Which had nothing to do with the job, obviously.
Yeah.
And then as he's getting older and, you know, you're having core memories with him, like now I'm taking him to Broncos games and he loves football and now he loves films as well. Like he was at our studio yesterday and we were filming auditions and he wants to join in and he wants to have a go at the auditions. So then we set him up and he has a go. Or I said to him the other day, do you want to do a scene while we're at the studio? And he said, yeah. And I said, okay, what do you want to do? And he loves Jaws. So he wanted to do a scene from Jaws. So we did like a 10-second scene from Jaws. And he's like, we love the same thing. So I get emotional. Like yesterday when I was watching him do his little audition, I felt emotional on that because it's like hanging out with my little best mate now because it's like you're looking at a smaller version of yourself.
So it's really self-absorbed.
Look, if anybody knows me, that isn't a stretch. I'm looking at him going, seeing me going, God damn, that's good. God damn, he's talented.
I gotta tell you, son, if you didn't look anything like me, I'd probably hate you. Oh, that's a cracker.
But I think, it has to change her.
Yeah.
But for me, during police operational jobs, that's when I started realizing it affected me. And then now, like, as he's getting older, just little moments of like randomly I'll get emotional about. Like he gets a certificate at school, which, you know, eventually everyone gets the same certificate. Yeah. But I'm like, fuck yeah, man. Like, of course you did. Of course you got it, man. Why wouldn't they give it to you?
Yeah.
You know? Like,
you're basically me.
I think it has to change. Maybe that's what you're craving, mate. Maybe you're craving a family.
Let's not go there. Let's not go that far. I like sleep, freedom, and money at this point.
Well, you're not going to have that for your first 4 or 5 years.
That's true. That's true. We'll see how we go.
Yeah, man.
No, it's just a very. I mean, I'm always interested talking to other actors how they go about it and what they feel doing it because I like that and I wonder if it's something wrong with me or if that's just not my process. You know what I mean?
That I was literally about to say that might not be your. I hate using the word process, but like, that,
well, yeah, it is. It is
right. Like, it might not be what you need to do,
which is something that I find really. It's one of the things I find frustrating about being an actor and the film career is coming from the army. There's such a clear, set way to do everything. Like, you know, if you want to be a lance corporal or a corporal and then a sergeant, whatever. Like, there's all these things. If I want this career trajectory, there are certain steps that I have to take and I know how to do them to get me from point A. It's very clearly, I can go and look it up and it says, do these things and away we go.
So funny. Me and a mate were having this conversation the other day and literally said that same thing, like any other career you go to. Yep. Like you said, I want a promotion. Well, I need to do this, this, this. And then there's a good chance if I play my cards right, I can get that promotion. But the creative industry, particularly acting, like no one knows. Yep. You know, like, and it's like that Greg Apps casting director, I heard him say the other day in one of his videos, is like, there's one thing I know is that no one knows. Yeah. Because you can follow the right steps, whatever that may be, whatever someone's told you who's been experienced and go, you got to do this, this, and this, and that might work for you, or it might not. Yep. And you might go another way and that works for you. And someone else tries that and that path doesn't work. There's another path. Yeah. Who knows what the right answer is? Yeah. Or, you know, we've all heard stories of someone who's done like nothing and just happened to fall in the right place at the right time and bang, they're off to the races. Yeah. But how often does that happen? Yeah, exactly. You know? It's like,
unreal. There's so many, like 1,000 ways to skin a cat. Yeah. You feel like a woman trying to choose someone to eat. And you're just like, there's too many options. What do I do? What do I do here? Like, it's unreal.
Good analogy. Yeah. I like something that this year I've been really attacking, especially with like one of my mates who we do a lot of like filming together and working on a lot of stuff together at the moment, is we just say you just got to be doing something all the time and be thinking outside the box, because from an actor's point of view, we're all fighting for roles. And when you're auditioning or sending self-tapes in, you just got to think, what can I do that no one else is doing? Because majority of people will always do the same thing.
Yeah.
Right. And, through workshops, when I talk to other actors or hear other actors asking questions, it's a lot of stuff I hear is, and obviously I don't know. I have no idea. I'm not successful.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Not yet.
caveat, not yet. So I don't want to act like I'm like, I have the answers. I don't. This is just from what I see. People will do the bare minimum and then go, but why aren't I getting anything? My agent has my show reel. I haven't changed it in 2 years. Why aren't I getting auditions? Because that ain't enough, dude.
Yeah.
Like, you constantly got to be doing something. Like, what you don't like, you got your own podcast right now. Like, writing. I'm always writing stuff at the moment. Like, I'm filming little scenes. Like, you may not do anything with them, but you need to be doing something rather than just sitting and waiting.
Yeah.
I think from my experience, other actors I talk to, a lot of people are just sitting and waiting. And you're not going to help yourself, because it has to, even if you have an agent, they can't do everything for you.
Yeah.
They can only work with what you provide them. I don't know. Would you agree with that?
Yeah. No, absolutely. If you're not updating your reels and putting new scenes down or doing classes that you can provide, even class footage you can put on your Vimeo, you send it to them. It doesn't have to be crazy, but that's supplementary footage that when they pitch you for something, they can be like, yeah, here's be aware, mindful, and casting directors know. Be like, it's scene work from class. It's not, this isn't polished material, but this is an idea of what Tommy can do. Jake can do this. He can play that kind of character. Here's a depth that you didn't think he had. Maybe you can see him for that. It's all of that. If they've got nothing,
what are they going to do?
They can't pitch you. But then on the same thing, if you're not doing that, they also notice and like, well, if you're not working hard, then I'm not going to work hard for you. If Jake's sitting there on the couch all day doing fuck all and Tommy's out there busting his ass, well, I'll put Tommy forward. Yeah. So he's probably going to work harder for it, and there's probably a better chance he's going to get it.
I was speaking to a guy recently, and he was venting his frustration about not getting an audition, hasn't heard from his agent or anything, and said, have you got a show reel? And he's like, yeah, I've put together a show reel. I'm like, okay. When'd you last update it? It's 2 years ago. I'm like, okay. Headshots? Yeah, I've got headshots. When were they taken? 3-4 years ago. Okay, so really, the last time you did something was 2 years ago. A lot changes in 2 years. And if they're seeing the same thing over and over again, like, people get numb to it. You need to, like, change it up, right?
Yeah.
But even like you said before, doing workshops, it's like going to the gym. Like, if you're not acting regularly, you're going to lose a little bit of it. Yeah. You're going to lose a little bit of, not experience, but you just need the reps to keep that creative muscle kind of there, ready to go. I'm sure you felt it where you haven't done anything for a few weeks, and then you might go to a workshop and you get up to do your first thing, like, fucking hell, that was rusty. You almost forget your own process of how to operate.
I remember something Beck said to me in one of the classes. It's like, your job is to get as far away from you as possible. But at the same time, you still need to bring a little bit of you to it. You can't, we're not all Tom Hardy and Cillian Murphy. But I put auditions in for Canada the other week, or earlier in the week. I remember I sent 2 of the takes off to my agents here and was like, look, I just want some feedback. What do you think? And my agent called me and he's like, hey, man, you always do good work. It's good work. It's a bit boring. He's like, it's flat. And I was like, fuck, okay.
But you need to hear that, right?
Yeah, which is, I really like the relationship that I have with my agents. They really appreciate. I told them straight off the bat, I was like, this is where I come from. I don't want you to bullshit me. If it's not good, tell me it's not good. Don't just go, it's shit and hang up. Tell me why, so that I've got something to work on and fix it. But I want to hear the hard truth. I want to know if it sucks. And they love that. They're like, you don't know how many egos and stuff we have to fluff around all the time. We love the fact that we can call you and just go, it sucks. And you'll fix it.
And again, it's that military thing, right? Of like, if you fuck something up, and again, in the army, they'll scream at you or whatever it is. Like, you go, check, make an adjustment. We go again.
And off we go.
And I think that's like an important thing, and especially as an actor, like, if you fuck a take up or a director's like, that's not it. Like, I want to take you in that direction. Rather than get all pissed off and like flustered and be like, oh my God, fucking hell, I'm just sorry. I'm just not with it. Even if you know you fucked up, you go, yep, cool, own it. What do you need me to do? Roger, let me try that. And you just crack on with it. You know?
Well, it was good to get that. But one of the things he pointed out to me is like, look, you're too stoic. He's like, we know you can, he goes, we know you can do that. He's like, take it somewhere else. He's like, you do these characters and you get that stoicism, which like, we know you can do that. Give us something else.
That's
go a completely different thing.
Get what you're saying, because I was very aware I was doing that the last. That's our thing.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Again, the background,
exactly.
like we understand how to play that, and then this year I was like, all right, because I started back up with some workshops. I'm like, I want to play completely different characters from Stoic.
Yep.
So I started really looking at playing like different types of like villains or bad guys, having a lot of fun with it. But now I'm like, oh man, that's all I'm doing at the moment. Now, again, the identity thing, I've just supplemented Stoic for like bad guy.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, cool. I've done that for a bit. Now I've got to try to do something else.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's funny that you say,
it's a fun world to play in. For sure.
Yeah. Well, you got some exciting stuff coming up, like moving overseas with it.
Yeah. It's gonna be good. I'm very keen. I'm all sort of at this point now where I'm almost annoyed that I'm here, because I'm just
What do you mean?
Like I've made the decision to go, and my original plan was I was going to be going around this time, and then I had a wedding dropped on me. I was like, okay, I can push it back a little bit. That's okay. I can do that wedding. That's fine. And then I had my best mate drop his wedding on me as well. And he's like, and that was like a couple months later. And he's like, obviously I'm the best man. I was like, I'm pumped for you and I'm really keen to do it. But I was like, you're fucking me off here. I just want to go, because I know there's a lot more opportunity for me on that side of the world than there is here. Yeah. I think we have a really great film industry here, but it's very small. Yep. And I think it lends itself a little bit to a famine mentality where everyone's scraping and scratching for the couple of jobs that come. Yeah. I think it would be a lot better if we had a lot more here. It would be great, and a lot more people would get a lot more chances.
Yeah. It is exciting though. I was saying this to my mate Dole yesterday, that again, the universe, like things happen at a funny time, because you think about like the whole time when we were like in high school, growing up and everything, you look at, and we weren't in the industry then, but how the Australian industry was always perceived then. Like nothing got made here. Yep. It was like Home and Away, Neighbours. Yep. That was probably it. Then Underbelly came along, and that was like the third show that we did after that. And nothing else really got made. And then it was a big thing back then. Every now and then, like a Hollywood movie would come out, like Mission Impossible 2. Yeah. In like 2000 came out, and everyone was talking about it, even though it was just filmed in Sydney. Like everyone on the show was talking about it. And then, nothing for a while, then something else might get made for a little bit. Like it's so weird that we're in a time now where there's all these things coming to Australia. And I'm like, it's so weird that got in the industry at this time when it's all happening. Like it's exciting. But as you said, like it's still hard because everyone's still going for the same jobs. Yep.
Yeah. I think there's a bit of risk aversion as well at sort of the producer level here in Australia, where I think because we have so little amount of content here at the moment, obviously it's growing, which is amazing, and more stuff's coming here. But because there isn't as the abundance that you have over in like the UK or Canada or the States, I think they're a little bit scared to take a risk on someone that might be a risky choice. They're but if it fails, then we've lost all this money that we've just injected to it, and we haven't got that much to go around. So let's pick the safe bet. I think there's a lot of that happens as well. Whereas you go overseas and they're just like, we got so much going on, we cannot afford. I'm getting emotional. It's happening, Tommy.
It's happening. Are we capturing this?
Yeah.
Are we capturing this?
No, we can't afford to just pick the same 5 people for it. We've got 50 projects. They can't be everywhere at once. Yep. We have to give new people a crack, which I think it's great for people moving, but I just wish we had that here. Yep. So that you could get, because we got so many talented people around that just they don't get a run. Yep. Because they're, there's probably more reasons than that for sure, but that's just one of the reasons that I think it's a bit of a drawback for people.
Yeah, and I'm sure you've like come across other actors, like whether you like know them personally or you've just seen them in a workshop, and you like, they sit at the other end of the room who get up and you watch their work, like, holy fuck, that person's, how have they not made it yet? Yep. You're like, what have you been in? And they've only been in like 1 or 2 things and still finding their way. You're like, dude, really?
Yeah, that was amazing.
Yeah, like, if you haven't made it, I've got no chance. You have that kind of thing. You're like,
all the
what
time.
The hell?
All the time.
Yeah.
Dude, I wanted to come here. Like, I want people here to
It'll
succeed. It will. It will. The wave
time.
The wave is coming. It does take time.
Yep.
I think everyone's leaving Hollywood. So.
Well, yeah. Come over here, guys.
Yeah.
Please.
Oh, there's new studios going up. There's more projects coming. Yeah. It's an exciting time.
Yeah.
Either way, I'm keen to get out of here.
Yeah.
See what happens.
Well, like I said, mate, you'll hopefully be big over in Canada. And then come back over here.
Yeah.
Give me a job.
Yeah, absolutely. Security?
Thanks, mate.
Where's your Cert 3? Oh, we'll need to see that, though.
Cert 2, mate. That's all I got. Okay, it's all I got. So sorry.
Oh, but how was you got onto Boy Swallows Universe as well?
Yeah,
I saw that.
That's right. We were both on it.
Yeah, and that was mate. The delivery of that line, I actually laughed out loud.
Everyone said that.
I did. I was like, that was spot on.
Really? Everyone's saying that.
Okay, fucking. I'll shut the fuck up then.
I still got
brilliant.
I got mates who give me shit at work who. Fucking now I feel bad. I can't remember the line, but if I'm talking or delivering a class, someone's like, "Oh, why don't you pogo stick up to Cape York, mate?"
Yeah.
And I'm like, "All right, mate, thanks." But it's so funny that because you pop up like really quickly as the show starts. And I was like, there's Jake. And I'm like, I'm glad that I wasn't the only one who had a bad haircut.
Yeah. Oh, mate. I was cracking up. So Corey, the other fella, was in the scene. He had his mullet.
Yep.
We were doing the costume for it, and they're trying all these different outfits. He would have been through the same thing. Yep. They put him in footy shorts. And he did not want to be in footy shorts.
Really?
Yeah. He's like, fuck no. And I'm sitting there talking to the costume lady. He's going, that's great.
That
looks amazing. Like, oh, you have to leave him
What's
in
wrong
those.
with the footy shorts? I thought the footy shorts were good.
He would have popped a nut out they were that short, and he was hating it. He was just sitting there going, shut the fuck up. And I'm like, nah, I don't know what to tell you. They look amazing. Oh, it was a stitch up. He ended up in jeans.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Footy shorts would have been sick. Wasn't one of them wearing footy shorts?
No,
I must be thinking of another scene.
John Reynolds was wearing shorts, but it wasn't wasn't footy shorts. There was footy shorts all through it. Mate was the older fella that died. He was wearing stubbies.
Brian Brown? Yeah, that's right. Mate, I loved your scenes. Like you had some good intense scenes.
Thanks.
That was sick.
We had fun.
Yeah, it looked like fun. Where'd you shoot that?
That was Beanley. Area.
Okay.
Beanley, Stapleton, that sort of area.
Yep.
Yeah. It was good fun. It was that was cool. To work with Travis was really first sort of. It's not the first famous person I've sort of run into, but it was the first time I actually got to work with someone and get to watch someone who I really liked. Like I was like, I loved Vikings, so I sat there and I was like, I get to work with Travis. Like this is cool.
I just watched. Have you actually watched season 1 of Black Knight?
No,
man, I watched it like the other day.
Good.
Oh, so good.
I'll have to watch it.
Yeah, highly recommend. Again, this is going back to what we were saying before about like there are some good things being made here. It's like Australia's unlocked how to do local crime drama now.
Well, a lot of it's budgetary again. A lot of it's budget, and I don't know. We went through this weird stage where everything we made for so long, it just looked B grade. Like it looked like,
but not even the look. Like the writing used to not be very good, but now the writing is like on point. Like people are talking how normal Australians talk.
Yeah, and it's not the same over the top ochre that everyone wants. That drives me nuts too. Yeah. No one's ever spoken like that in the history of Australia.
I've never thrown shrimp on a barbie.
Yeah, no, I don't even know what they were. No. I had to Google it.
I've had prawns.
They're like, they're prawns?
On a barbecue.
Okay. Yeah. On the Weber, mate.
On the Weber.
What are you talking about? No, that was...
But working with Travis, man, that must have been awesome.
Yeah, he was really nice, which was good. Like, he was super down to earth. He was just a normal dude, which was great. Like, I remember the first... Because we only worked, I think it was 5 nights to do that scene.
Yep.
I think it was... 5 nights we did. And, like, the first time we knew he was coming, we were there early. We did some rehearsals with Jackie's stunt double and whatnot. Everything kind of got changed a little bit, but we're sitting there and we knew, like, Trav was coming. They were getting ready. And then he came on. I was just thinking, like, I wonder what he's going to be like. Yeah. You know, because you never know watching a character and he doesn't do a lot of interviews. Yeah. You don't really get a sense of who he is.
Yep.
So it was interesting. I was like, I wonder how he's going to be. And just watching him come on, and then, like, he talked to the director for a while at the start and then kind of got into the scene. And it wasn't until he'd done a take or two around that table that then he kind of, I think he maybe relaxed a little bit. Didn't have as much to think about. Yeah. And was like, hey, man, I'm Trav. How are you? Nice to meet you. And introduced himself to all of us, which was good. Yep. And then he was cool. He was cracking jokes and having fun throughout the 5 nights. But the last night, so that scene was actually his last scene on set.
Oh,
he wrapped.
Yeah, right.
So we finished that last night. We all went back to unit base, get makeup and everything off. He obviously had his own makeup thing. He came and found us 3 stunties that worked with him. Came and found us individually. He was like, hey, mate.
Oh,
like,
wow.
Remember my name, like everything, handshake. Thanks for hanging out,
nice.
Thanks for taking care of me. It's really great to work with you. Lovely meeting you. Hopefully I'll see you around. Like, we're just like a really nice Aussie dude.
Yeah.
And I was like, this...
Which is what you're hoping for, right?
Because I didn't expect... I literally just walked out and he like came over from where he was.
Yep.
It wasn't like he'd actually come
awesome.
looking for me and the other 2 guys, which was really cool.
That's awesome.
And then I got a selfie because I was like...
I saw this. I remember when you put the selfie up.
I was I don't want to be that dude, man. But he's like, you want a selfie? I was like, I can't not. Like, we may never... He's like, I get it. It's all right. And we took a selfie. He was cool about it. Yeah. I was like, I don't want to be that guy, but it may never happen again.
It's like, I had sort of the same thing because I only did 2 days of shooting. And I was lucky enough I got to work with Rob Carlton and Sophie Wild. And man... Can't speak highly enough for both of them. Like, but Rob Carlton really took me under his wing for those 2 days, and spent more time with me than like he needed to. Offered advice, and I'll forever be grateful. He even messaged me after the show aired.
That's awesome.
About our episode. Yeah. And again, like how I delivered the lines. Like, man, that meant a lot, and I was awesome. But that first day, it was cool because I rocked up and like to actually see a trailer with my character name on it.
Yeah.
And I was like, I had that moment, where you go in and my sides are there and I thought, hang on. It was like imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
Have I just stumbled into this? So we're all going to figure out real quick that I don't deserve to be here. But like, as we, started shooting everything, relaxing, it was fine. Then we had lunch and I wanted to get a photo out the front of the trailer, but I didn't want to be that guy, like you said, who gets the phone out and does it. Plus, you don't want to be seen like taking photos.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Because everyone's on a set like really worried about that.
Yeah.
But then not long after, there's a knock on my door and it's Rob.
Yeah.
And he's like, hey, mate, have you got a photo out the front of the trailer yet? I was like, oh, no. And he's like, mate, grab your phone. You got to. This is a big thing for you. I'm like, oh, fuck. All right. Then,
that's awesome.
He took a photo of me out the front. He's like, get in here. And then he's hugged me and we got, me and him out the front of it. I was like, man, this is awesome.
Yeah.
And like, he really made me feel at home and like I deserve to be there.
That's cool.
Because what it's like, you go onto these things and, they've been shooting for however long. Everyone knows everyone.
Yeah.
And you don't really know anyone.
Yeah. And
you're just trying to find...
just try not to piss anyone off.
Try not to piss everyone off and trying to make sure that you don't make a mistake.
Yep.
And you're like, should I talk to someone? Should I not? Like, I don't want to encroach. Yeah. But like, I'm sure Travis was the same. Like, once they engage with you, like, it just puts you at ease and you go, all right, no, I have a job to do here. Yep. And I do feel welcome.
Yeah. I remember having a less than ideal interaction with a different famous person on the very first thing I worked on. Like, not the first short film, a bigger film.
Yeah, right.
I won't name and shame.
Off air, tell me.
Yeah. But I remember I was just an extra at this scene. I was like standing right next to him. And like nobody had given us any direction on what we were supposed to be doing.
Yep.
And I'd never been on a film set before. So I had no idea. The guy next to me, I'm still friends with today. We literally didn't know. And he had like kind of a break. They were doing some coverage the other side. And I just said, hey, excuse me, like, what are we supposed to be doing at the back here? And he just it was just like, he's like, really? I don't know, just stand there. And just went back. And I was like, you couldn't give us like 15 seconds to just go, mate, just do this. Like, you guys are just supposed to be doing this, so maybe just do this or that. Yeah, that's all we're not after, like, sit down and break down your whole day with us, mate, and give us a character. Like, 15 seconds of like, we don't know.
What do you want us to do, man?
Yeah, like, we're also here in a scene that you're going to be in. Yeah. We would like to make you look good. Yeah. Give us 10 seconds of your day.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean? And I was like, all right, I remember that.
And
I've locked that away.
After that, how much longer were you on set with this person?
The whole week. The entire week.
Were there other interactions like that after that?
No. I didn't interact with them again after that. But we were there all week. I was only an extra. Like, again, at the same time, you're only an extra, so you're not, you're not the most important person on set. They are, which is, is what it is. But also, without extras, your film falls apart.
Man, and like, like, there are people who direct extras. It's not like people, like, extras are just there and they're like, guys, do something. Like, background directors who, like, literally going over, and that's what like blew my mind when I did Boy Swallows Universe, because I hadn't really seen that before. And them going around and saying, okay, and almost giving like a story as to what this extra would have been. I'm like, holy shit, like, the audience is going to know that.
3 days, man.
Yeah, right. And I was like, wow, this is awesome. Like, not only are they just giving them a direction, but they're telling them why they're doing it. and almost like, you're getting a whole story for that extra. Which is awesome.
Which is why it's good as a starting out actor to take extra roles.
Yeah.
They don't pay the best,
but you're
not the most important
You get to be
person.
on set and like understand how it all rolls.
Yeah.
Because it can be daunting.
It's a huge education sitting there watching it.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to be, and at the end of the day, that's why you've got to do all these unpaid gigs and whatever, because no producer is going to sign you off to be the lead in, you're not going to be James Bond if you've never been on a film set before. It's not going to happen.
Yep.
Like the amount of time and money they would waste on you trying to do little things like, mate, what are you doing? Like,
I remember when I first started and I asked you, like, this is after so many months of doing classes, and I started feeling more comfortable and going, okay, like, I think I want to do this. Jake, what do I go and do? Like, how do I progress? And you said, well, you need to start doing some student films, like unpaid stuff, to just understand how a set works. And I was like, all right, cool. So I did that. It was like the best thing I did because it's funny, like, look back now, like, I was nervous on those sets, but there's no, like, nothing was really at stake.
Yeah. And they're all learning as well.
And they're all learning as well.
So everyone's fucking it up together.
Exactly.
And there's no stakes. No one cares. No. It's an assessment. Like they're not.
Exactly. But the best thing it like taught me is, like we were saying before, is how a set works. At what point, even what a director will call out.
Yep.
Because before I started doing like work on a set, I had no idea. Yep. I'm like, well, I know from the movies someone's going to say action.
Yep.
But like, how do we get to that point? Do I stop? Do I just stop when I finish my line or what? Like, learning all those little things was a massive benefit because then when it started booking bigger things, like you go on a set and you're more relaxed because all the 1%ers are kind of taken care of. Yep. Like all the logistics, I should say. Like you're not nervous going, oh, where do I stand? Like, oh, what's he going to, is he going to say action and then I go? Like, what is it? Like when you're first starting out, you don't think, which, we've seen lots of guys on their first day, they say action and they start talking immediately.
Yeah.
Like,
stop.
Just
Give
stop.
it a second.
Give it a second.
He's in.
Then go, like things like that. So best advice like you gave me is like, go and do student films. Yeah. Because you need to start somewhere.
Yeah, you do. And you want to fail where everyone's failing. You don't want to fail where money's involved because then people get real upset real quick.
Yeah.
Just thinking if there's anything else for us to cover.
How long have we been going? Holy shit.
It's been about 2.5, nearly 3 hours. It flies.
Yeah.
Time flies, man.
Yeah.
So if you had a lesson from your life so far that you've learnt that you could maybe pass on to anyone. It could be from anything. It could be someone trying to go to the military, someone trying to get into cops, someone trying to get into acting. Just something that's helped you through your life. What would it be?
It's like two bits of advice wrapped into one. And it's funny you ask me that because police recruits will always ask me a very similar question and I'll always answer it the same way now. Because they always say, what's some advice you give us for when we go out on the road or we get to our station? I say, I don't like to give you too much operational advice because you'll always end up being your own police officer. And I think this advice, no matter what you do, will translate. But I always say, don't let this job be everything, which goes into the identity stuff we're talking about. Now, you'll naturally, because policing's a cool job, army's a cool job, or whatever your passion is, like it's a cool job. But particularly with police, if you let it become everything, and you have no other substance outside your life, it can easily burn your life down as well. So I always like to say, whatever friendship groups you have outside of work, whatever hobbies you have outside of work, keep doing those. Don't just have everything revolve around work. And, like if you have a passion, which goes into like our stuff with acting, keep chasing it. That will fulfill your life way more than passions that just spiral off from whatever job that you choose to do. So that's the advice I'd give. Yeah, just like create a full life by having multiple things. Don't just be one dimensional. Yeah. You gotta like do your job as best as you can. But when you don't have to be there, go do something else. Yeah. If you enjoy reading, like read. If you enjoy doing sport, even if you're getting older, you can still find like physical activities you can do. It doesn't really matter. But that's the advice I'd give. Yeah. I like that. I think the identity one's a big one because not only can it burn your life down, but if you've tied your entire identity to it, like a lot of us have, once it's gone, like who are you? What are you left with? And then you're in the position that we've both been in, that a lot of us have been in. Yeah, and like whether it doesn't have to be military police, like we know that world really well and how it can burn people. But like I think majority of the public they understand from what happens to athletes when they retire or they get injured in their prime and they can't continue. For an athlete that's operated in that world for so long and it becomes everything because they want to operate at the high level, when it goes, they don't know what to do.
Yep.
You know, because that's all they've done.
Yeah.
So yeah, just find other things in your life to shape you. Like I enjoy now. I used to get annoyed when I was in the army and someone would ask me what I do, and I'd say, I'm in the army, and they go, "Oh, you don't seem like someone who'd be in the army." And that used to piss me off, right? Same when I joined the police.
Is it because I'm black? You're like, but you're Asian.
Because I'm short and Asian.
Yeah.
Or I'm a police officer. Oh, you don't come across as a police officer. Now I understand what that means. Even though it was my whole identity, there were certain times in a social setting where I wouldn't always convey that, particularly now. I enjoy now when people go, "Oh, before you did acting," or like, "What do you do outside acting?" I'm a police officer. What? Really? What did you do for police? I was in the army. What? I would never guess you did those two jobs.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Because I'm not conveying that constantly.
Yeah. No one guesses my job, which is good.
That's a tough one to guess.
Yeah.
Man, don't I know you from that dessert show?
Exactly right. Yeah. Are you famous? No. No, I'm not. One day.
You're famous to me, Jake.
Oh, thanks.
You're famous
bud.
to me.
And
You're always on my television on a Saturday morning.
Sunday morning.
Sunday morning.
Good to know. Good to know. You really locked it in. Highlighted it in the TV guide. Sick. Well, mate, thank you for being the number one. Popping my cherry here.
No, thanks for having me, man.
It's been a pleasure, man. I've really enjoyed catching up with you. It's been...
Yeah, man, we don't get to catch up, so it was awesome.
Life is
yeah, thanks
busy.
for inviting me to catch up in this format, man. Really enjoyed
Excellent.
it.
All right.
Awesome.
See you around, everybody.